Hello, romance lovers. Today's story is called I Became the Obsessive Villain Babysitter. If you enjoy our videos, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss out on more exciting stories. Life doesn't always go the way we want it to. Her life was no exception. It was full of difficulties and chaos. She just wanted to live long and peacefully. A young dark-haired man lies unconscious on the grass. An agitated voice addresses the man on the ground, asking how he is feeling. A frightened girl in a smart dress knelt down next to a man. She is puzzled by the fact that she got into an unpleasant situation for herself. Covering her face with her hands due to the intense shock, the girl looked at him and could not believe that she was able to knock down Duke Raka Ainthia himself. Duke Rak Ainthia was the main villain. He imprisoned the main character and then teamed up with monsters to attack the imperial family. The girl thought it was better for her to leave before she was noticed, because if someone saw them together from the side, she would have problems. A voice was heard nearby. Someone was calling his brother. It was Aisha Ainthia, Rak's younger sister. The girl came closer and saw what had happened. She was very worried and wanted to know why her brother was lying on the ground unconscious. Behind Aisha, Delcane Ainthia was hurrying towards them. He was the younger brother of Duke Raka Ainthia. Delcane saw that his brother could not open his eyes and assumed that he was already dead. The younger brother and sister who had arrived were looking intently at the girl sitting next to the lying man. Aisha asked her if she had killed Rak. The girl put her hand to the back of her head and guiltily asked them for forgiveness. She insisted that there had been some misunderstanding. The children were furious. A large snake appeared behind Aisha, who accused the girl of being responsible for her brother's death. Delcane supported his sister and called the girl a vile priestess. They blamed her for cheating and they thought it was because of the girl that Raka Ainthia was in such a state, but it was not true. Their brother was alive, but they did not let the girl say it. About half an hour ago in the palace, someone present asks Maya if she is ready. The girl opens the doors, dressed in a beautiful dress, but her face is full of bewilderment. She finds that she does not understand where she is. She is surrounded by people in ceremonial attire, excitedly discussing Maya's condition. The girl does not understand what is happening. She only clearly remembers how she fell down the stairs and died. Having come to her senses a little, she realizes that she is the center of attention. One of the men anxiously asks the girl if she feels unwell. The girl hears herself called Maya and finds the name familiar. After thinking for a while, she suddenly remembers the name Flower Shakir. The Flower of Shakir was the title of the last book the girl read before she died. Assuming that she was the same Maya who is a minor character in the novel Flower Shakir, the girl cannot believe it and thinks that it is a dream. Having come to her senses a little, she tries to understand what is happening around her and asks the man again what they want her to do. The man was surprised by the girl's forgetfulness. He reminded her that earlier Maya herself said that she would go to the prayer room before giving the blessing. The girl was told that today was a sacred day, and the power was supposed to awaken in her. Everything that was happening around her seemed true, and she began to come to terms with the fact that she was Maya. In the book the girl read, there was Emperor Kines, who received blessings on the day of the awakening of the Mayan powers. And about a year after awakening, Maya gave all her strength to save Emperor Kines, and then fell into eternal sleep. It was not clear to the girl what ability should awaken, but she remembered that a year later, Maya was bleeding. Frightened by the fact that she was literally created for the purpose of giving her life for Emperor Kines, and that she would have to die just because of this, the girl began to tremble. She decides to stall for time or stop the ceremony altogether. The girl declares that she has something to confess, but one of the women present says that they have no time left for that. Maya panicked. She exclaimed that it was very important. The priestess agreed to listen to her. The girl sighed, putting her hand on her chest. She said heavily that her powers had not yet awakened. The woman emphasized that this was impossible. The girl tried to protest, but was accused of lying. She did not understand why the priestess was so confident in the awakening of her powers. The woman approached Maya, took her hands, and asked to let her check. The priestess whispered something indistinctly. The girl watched her in surprise, not understanding what she was doing. They began to shine, covering themselves with a small dome. The woman fell silent. She looked menacingly at Maya, emphasizing that her abilities had definitely awakened. The girl was surprised. She was interested in how the priestess could determine this in one touch. And she was told to proceed to the altar. Maya was very scared. The woman said that Maya should never forget about elegance and nobility. She is a daughter of God. The girl did not know what else she could come up with to avoid her fate. She looked at the priests waiting for her and wondered whether she should bless Kanice and allow herself to die in agony a year later. And Maya announced the beginning of the action. Sitting on her knees, she crossed her fingers, closed her eyes, and suggested that they begin praying to their god Teradus. She couldn't believe what was happening because she had just died out of stupidity. The girl couldn't allow herself to die again, and so unfairly, but to do this she had to escape from the temple. Maya opened her eyes slightly and saw the doors wide open. She thought that now, during prayer, everyone had closed their eyes, and fortunately there was no one near the doors either. This was a great opportunity to escape. She stood up, grabbed the hem of her dress, and rushed forward. The priestess and priest noticed her and shouted after her. Running out of the temple, the girl waved her hand at them, joyfully wishing everyone a happy stay. She decided that she was renouncing what fate had destined for her in this novel, and Maya sets off to find her happiness. The priests woke up, they shouted that she needed to be caught, and the girl sped up, not giving them a single chance to catch her. This is how a minor character from the novel Flower Shakir made her first escape to survive. Maya ran through the forest. A bird flew behind her, asking if she could hear her. The girl did not immediately understand whose voice it was. The bird was saying that if she ran away like that when her powers awakened, she would not be able to know what would happen to her. The bird was ordering Maya to return to the temple. She introduced herself, and the bird turned out to be the god Teradus himself. He explained that the girl could now hear him as her powers had awakened. Maya kept running, looking questioningly at the suspicious bird. Teradus said that he must have reached puberty and handed everything over to Fortuna, after which he fell asleep. He asked if she was running away now or if this was just a walk. The girl growled, recommending the bird to disappear or to remain silent. Her strength was at its limit, and behind her, the cries of the priests were heard. They spotted Maya, and she continued running, thinking she needed to hide somewhere. After a while, she leaned against a tree and sat down, leaning against it. The annoying bird asked if Maya thought anything would change if she escaped the temple, and if something had happened there that he didn't know about. Maya replied that if she hadn't done that, she would have died within a year. Teradus asked in surprise how she knew that. She wanted to explain everything to him, when she suddenly realized that apparently even the god Teradus did not know that they were in a novel, and that she was not the real Maya. The girl looked away, saying that it just seemed that way to her. She had been having prophetic dreams lately. The bird looked at her suspiciously. The girl thought that first she had to hide the fact that she was not the real Maya. Teradus laughed. He said, Fortuna was playing a little joke. Maya would not die. She would just fall asleep forever. She awkwardly asked what the difference was. God explained that her body was falling asleep, and her soul would go to him forever. Maya exclaimed that it was the same as dying. She stood up and walked on. He asked her if she could wake up one day. Would she choose the temple? The girl asked how long it would take her to wake up. Teradus guessed about 100 years. She looked at him indignantly, asking if he felt sorry for her at all. Teradus did not understand her reaction, saying that it was his rule to love everyone. Maya noted that he must love Emperor Kynes the most. The god replied that he felt more for the child who possessed his gift. He supposed that the poor fellow must have lost sleep, since he had invaded the realm of the gods in a human body. It was Kynes' fault. He knew that if he used the divine power too much, he would no longer be able to sleep properly. Teradus assumed that some things were inevitable in human life. Maya snapped back in irritation, saying that if you think about it, she had to run too because it was an unavoidable situation. After all, she was the daughter of God, pointing out to Teradus that there was nothing he could do about it. He would have to find someone else. The deity was surprised by the girl's words. Maya said that maybe there was someone who could put the emperor to sleep just by touching him. She thought, for example, the main character Reina Adrienne from the novel Flower Shakir. God objected. He needed Maya. He believed that only she could solve this problem. The girl refused to give the emperor a blessing to her own detriment. Teradus continued to persuade the girl, saying that he would talk to the emperor so that he would use his divine powers as little as possible. Maya continued to flatly refuse to return. She thought that as long as there was a villain, the emperor had no choice but to use divine powers. The villain of the novel is Raka Ainthia. He kidnaps, imprisons, and even threatens others to get his hands on the heroine. So Emperor Kynes had no choice but to use his divine powers to protect her. The girl would never allow herself to be sacrificed. Terratus exclaimed, suggesting that Maya think again, emphasizing that they could not continue in this spirit. She clenched her fists, saying that there was nothing she could do. She felt that she was in danger, just like when she ran away from the temple. Her wild gaze was aimed at the bird. God asked her to calm down. She started running after the bird, trying to catch it. Terratus noticed that Maya was so slow, like a turtle, which made her even more angry. He got nervous that she would still manage to catch him, but continued to mock. Suddenly, he disappeared. The girl walked, searching the forest, but did not find him. And then she saw something in the foliage and grabbed it. An unknown, surprised voice was heard. It was not a bird, but someone's head. The girl noticed how nice and soft its hair was, but she was more interested in who it could be. Terratus flew up to her, sarcastically saying that she definitely hadn't caught him. She felt awkward. The bird asked, and why did she immediately decide to grab him by the hair? Realizing this, the girl threw her head back in shock. Coming out from behind the bush, she saw a man lying on the grass, apologizing. She asked if he was okay, but the man did not even move. The girl thought with horror that after escaping, she immediately became a murderer. In shock, she sat down next to the body. Turning to Terratus, she said, "How is that possible?" Turning around, Maya discovers that the god has fled despite being an accomplice. Putting her fingers to the man's nose, she feels his warm breath, so he was still alive. She thought that if after the concussion, he would be like a vegetable. The girl heard the screams of his brother and sister. The girl claimed that there were no flowers there. When they saw their brother, they were horrified and rushed to him, asking why he was lying there and if he was dead. They noticed a girl next to him. The children asked if she was a priestess, claiming that humans were right when they said they were all evil. They demanded an explanation. Maya apologized, saying there had been a misunderstanding. The girl exclaimed, "What a misunderstanding," because they only wanted to find the flower Shakir. The boy shouted that it was the priestess who was to blame for the death of his brother. Maya tried to calm the children down, claiming that their brother was alive. But the children were firmly convinced that he was dead. The boy ordered his sister to kill the girl. She happily agreed and began to emit black magic. Maya was scared when she saw that Aisha could also use black magic. She said that she could save him, and her brother told Aisha to wait. Putting his hand on her shoulder, he said that what the priestess was saying might be true. Aisha was surprised, saying, was he really trying to dissuade her now? Maya admired Delcane in her mind. The girl asked how she could save her brother. The boy, with a completely serious look, emphasized that she was an adult. He reminded her of what his brother had said, that an adult can only bring someone back to life once. He asked his sister if she remembered how he had saved Piri, whom they had raised together. She remembered saying that after Piri came back to life, he became so strange he didn't need water or food. The girl concluded that the villain saved the pet with the help of black magic. She wondered if they believed what Raka said. She couldn't imagine that they were so naive because there was a scene in the novel where they mocked the main character. The boy folded his arms across his chest and said with complete confidence that in any case, the priestess could revive his brother. Although, of course, he was not dead, but who would listen to the priestess? The children turned to the evil sorceress. Maya smiled, asking what they wanted. They ordered her to revive their brother right now. The girl agreed, saying that she would definitely save him. Aisha ran her finger along her neck, saying that if she couldn't do it, they would kill her. Maya thought how cruel she was and suggested that they move the man first. She knew it would take Rocky some time to wake up. She prayed that he wouldn't become a vegetable. They headed for the forest house. All three of them were carrying the man. They were sweating. He was very heavy. The girl was very tired of carrying him. Aisha was grumbling if she was going to put him all on them. Maya suggested taking a short break to rest a bit. Aisha wanted to support the girl's idea, but her brother told her not to give in to it. He insisted on not stopping to rest, as that would mean laying the body on the floor. They made every effort to drag Duke Rak to the bed and lay him down. After catching her breath a little, Maya looked at Rak's body. It was stronger than she initially thought. It just looked very weak now. Aisha tugged the girl by the dress and told her to save her brother. Maya asked to wait a little, because she was very tired, carrying her brother's body, but Aisha still insisted on her own. Delcane asked his sister to wait with this. He believed that if they rushed the revival now, Maya might die, and then they would not be able to save her brother. Hearing this from Delcane, Maya assumed that it would be advantageous to establish communication with him now. She began to talk more about her fatigue, persuading them to rest longer. The girl had a cunning plan. She believed that if she could negotiate with Aisha's brother, then she would be able to control her too. Maya began to giggle happily. Seeing this behavior of the priestess, Aisha pointed at her and called her a villain. Delcane saw that everything was fine with the girl and took his words back. Realizing that she won't be able to get out of this, the girl agrees and promises to try to save Rock, but she will need the help of his brother and sister. Delcane didn't trust Maya. He pointed his index finger and said that his brother had saved Pueri himself without any help. The girl explained that it was because he had superior skills. The Duke's younger brother and sister began to praise him, which made Maya laugh a little. Raka was a great black magician who could compete with the main character in strength. The children agree to the girl's request and enthusiastically declare their willingness to help. Delcane wants to know how they can help revive his brother. Maya thought that the children of Duke Aintia's family could not live in this quiet hut, and therefore asked her brother and sister whose house this was. Delcane, although he does not understand the reason for such interest in this place, still explains to the girl that they are in a temporary house that their brother set up so that they could pick Shakir's flowers. The Shakir flower was named after the first woman who discovered it. This flower was known for its excellent calming properties. Emperor Kynes often used this flower because his health was unstable due to divine power. First, Maya asked Delcane to pour some water into a basin and bring it along with a towel. The boy immediately rushed to fulfill this wish. There were no tasks for Aisha, and she wanted to know the reason for this. Maya reassured the girl that her brother's help would be enough. Not believing the girl's words, Aisha became indignant and reproached Maya for not taking saving Rock's life seriously. And in response, the girl convinced her to believe her words. After thinking about the situation, Maya guessed that Raka might try to kill her when he wakes up. And for that, she needs a weapon for self-defense, and she comes up with a task for Aisha. Maya asked the girl to bring her a frying pan. Aisha is very surprised by this and wants to know how the frying pan will help the girl revive her brother. The girl explains her request by the fact that every adult has their own ritual for saving a life, and every person has different devices for this. Aisha began to understand that the frying pan was a ritual device. Maya confirmed her guess and added that it was a huge secret that she was supposed to take with her to the grave, but she had to tell it to the girl. The girl hoped that Aisha would believe this obvious lie. Believing Maya's words, the girl began to think that when she became an adult, she too would be able to save someone's life. The girl agreed to bring the frying pan, but before leaving, Maya asked her not to tell Delcane about this in order to keep her method of reviving people a secret. After the girl left too, Maya was able to sit down on a chair and rest. She had been very nervous all this time, and now her body was aching with fatigue. Maya looked at Rock. She was very worried about using the frying pan. If he was unconscious again after that, he would immediately try to kill her when he came to. Night came and the children lay down together on the bed and fell asleep. At this time, Raka was still unconscious. While waiting for the Duke to finally come to his senses, Maya could not sleep and watched him closely. She took the frying pan in her hands and did not let it go for a minute. The girl noticed a window in the hut. She came closer and opened it. It seemed like a good option for escape. Maya turned around to look at Rock again. She was planning to hit him with the frying pan and run away before he woke up and tried to kill her. Suddenly, someone's voice was heard in the hut. It forbade the girl to carry out her plan. Maya was very scared because everyone else was asleep except her. The frightened girl notices a blue bird on the windowsill and recognizes it as the god Terratus. He tells her to put the frying pan down immediately. Terratus blames Maya for thinking about killing a man. The girl justifies herself and asks him to speak more quietly so as not to wake the others. God calms the girl down. Now only she can hear his voice and adds that not everyone is given the ability to hear the voice of God. Maya decides to ignore Terratus and swings the frying pan at Rock. The bird immediately rushes to stop the girl. The god categorically forbids her to do so. Terratus stops the girl and blames her for trying to kill Duke Rock. God sensed that the man was still alive and Maya should not have killed him. The girl explained to the bird that she was doing this not because she wanted to kill the man, but simply because she wanted to save herself. The god objected, because if you hit Rock with all your strength, you can kill him. Hearing this, Maya was a little puzzled and couldn't believe that a villain with black magic skills could just die from one hit with a frying pan. Maya told Teritus not to interfere with her, because she also wanted to live. God told the girl that he did not understand her desire to cling to her life. He believed that everyone has their own destiny. The more she listened to the god's persuasion, the more she disliked it. Maya increasingly realized that she should follow her destiny, and Teritus supported her thought and told her to return to the temple. The girl once again considers the god's offer to trust her fate and return to the temple and decides not to do so. She intends to change her fate. She picks up the frying pan again and heads towards Rak. Teritus agrees with the girl's opinion and persuades her to stop, but Maya is sure that she will die if she does not do so. The bird promises her in the name of Teritus to take full responsibility for the girl not dying. Maya listens to his offer with distrust. Believing the bird's words, the girl sits on the edge of the bed. She cannot understand why Teritus is so persistently boiling her, and thinks that he is not at all like a god. Maya looks at Rak and asks the bird why the god cares so much about this villain. Teritus explains to the girl that Duke Raka is a very important person. The girl, looking at the sleeping man, catches herself thinking that Teritus really doesn't know that he is in a novel, or that he simply thinks that it is important to have a negative character in a novel. She assumed that either Reina and Kynes' relationship wouldn't deepen without a villain, or that there was some extra story in the novel that she hadn't read. Either way, it wouldn't matter to her in a few days. Morning came. Maya was sitting on a chair, sleeping, her head on Rak's bed. Teritus watched her from the window and thought that the girl had behaved completely differently before. God remembered her as gentle and humble. He was worried about her looking very weak before, so he decided to make her physical attributes stronger than other people. According to Teritus's plan, the girl was supposed to return to his arms by the age of 25. Now he believed that Fortuna's prophetic dream could have frightened her greatly. Teritus had previously argued that there was no need to interfere, but now he saw how stubborn and determined the girl had become. In addition, the threads of connection that enveloped Maya were very twisted, and everything was much more complicated for her than for other people. God knew that the girl also had a special connection with Raka, and the Duke, on top of everything else, was definitely using black magic. Teritus did not wait for the girl to wake up, and the blue bird flew out of the window. God was very interested in what would happen in the end. Having come to his senses, the Duke sits up on his bed and touches his head with his hand because it hurts very much. He tries to remember what happened and notices a girl by his bed. Rak was suddenly overcome with the memory of her sneaking up behind him and grabbing him by the hair, then throwing him to the ground. The man smiled and briefly wondered if he should kill her. He couldn't imagine that the girl would allow herself to grab him by the hair and throw him to the ground. Raka stretched out his hand to kill her, and a dark, magical aura began to appear behind him. Suddenly, he stopped and thought about how he had not reacted to her at that time. The girl looked very pale. It seemed to him that her neck was so thin, as if it would break. She certainly looked weak. The moment she grabbed his hair, Raka felt weak and became somewhat sluggish. This feeling seemed somehow familiar to him. The man then felt the aura of black magic that had enveloped him, and the hum that he heard every time he closed his eyes instantly died down, and he stopped feeling pain. Rak had a feeling that she had affected him like the shakir flower. He took the girl's hand to check it. It seemed very strange to him. He could not understand why he felt the same effect from the man as from the shakir flower. The girl laughed in her sleep, and Raka noticed it. He thought that she was dreaming something good now. The man took hold of her wrists with both hands and mentally allowed her to laugh as much as she wanted, since this was the last time he thought she would laugh. He felt his mind clouding over from the contact with the girl. Raka could not understand what was going on. This was an unheard-of ability. Having changed his mind about killing Maya, the man decides that he is not awake yet. Raka sits on the edge of the bed and intends to go and see the twins. He finds a frying pan on the floor near the bed. Picking it up and examining it, the man assumes that Delcane and Aisha were playing here. Raka opened the door of the room where the children were sleeping. He barely managed to cross the threshold when the flames of the aura of black magic rushed at him. The man saw Aisha and called her by name. Raka explained to the girl that before attacking, she needed to understand who was standing in front of her. Aisha was still in bed and did not expect to see her brother and attacked him with magic. Raka thought that he should give credit to the girl for her ability to cope with difficulties and her quick reaction. Delighted by the appearance of her older brother, Aisha began to wake Delcane. She told him that the evil priestess had saved Rock. Delcane replied that he was sure that Maya would succeed. The older brother stood there, perplexed, listening to the twins' dialogue. He thoughtfully touched his chin and tried to find out the details of what they were talking about. The children looked at their brother with concern. Aisha asked Rock about his appetite, and Delcane was worried that his older brother would turn out like Puri. Raka put his hand on the back of his head. He remembered how Delcane cried over the loss of an animal, and he revived it with black magic. Puri was a squirrel-like creature. The man gave it to his younger brother for his birthday, and after his death, he brought him back to life. There were many downsides to bringing someone back to life with black magic, and Raka didn't want to talk about them. So he said that every adult can save someone else's life once in their life. The older brother reassured the children he was an ordinary person and also wanted to eat. Aisha and Delcane admitted that they were very afraid that he would become like Puri. Raka asked who had saved him. The children replied that it was the evil priestess, the woman who had been in his bedroom. Then he wanted to know how exactly she had done it. Delcane said that the girl asked him to fill a basin with water and bring it along with a towel. Aisha was in no hurry to tell what she did. The elder brother asked the girl to tell how it all happened. The girl hesitated, but admitted that the priestess had shared a secret with her that she needed to take with her to the grave. Hearing this, Raka looked at the frying pan again and tried to connect the two. He could not understand what the girl wanted to do. Aisha told how the priestess had to perform her sacred ritual with the frying pan in order to save her older brother. Raka assumed that the girl needed the frying pan to cook food and then add poison to it and poison the children. But then it was not clear to him who could have sent the killer. On the other hand, the priestess seemed weak to him for a killer. Raka knew that he had many enemies, and perhaps this girl simply hated him for something. Everything seemed very unclear to the man. He had discovered an ability in the girl that he had never seen before, and on top of that, many strange things. Raka decided to follow her for a while. Maya woke up after Raka had left the room and found his bed empty. She was surprised that there was no one there. Looking at her hands, the girl discovered that they were shrouded in a white glow. She assumed that she had died after all, or perhaps died in Maya's body and was reborn in a new body. The girl went to the mirror and looked into it. There she saw herself in Maya's body and was glad that she was still alive, and Raka had not killed her. Feeling relieved that everything remained the same, Maya realizes that she is very hungry and decides to go in search of food. Maya was very curious to know about the food that was cooked in this world. She opens the door of the room and sees Rock holding a frying pan in front of her, which she thinks has become even cleaner. Raka noticed that Maya had slept well. The girl smiled and put her hand behind her head and then, a little shyly, greeted him with a good morning. Looking at the girl, the man said that if you looked at her, no one would say that something had happened to her. Maya felt guilty towards him and asked for forgiveness for grabbing Rock by the hair yesterday and then throwing him to the ground. Now, Raka understood what really happened yesterday. He said that if a person makes a mistake twice, he sends him to hell. He then asked her if that was all the apology she had. Maya looked at the floor guiltily. She didn't know what else she could add to her apologies. In any case, the girl couldn't admit to him that she wanted to hit him with a frying pan. The children entered the room. Aisha wanted to know if they would have soup for breakfast and if the evil priestess had left, and Delcane was not at all happy with his surroundings and wanted to get home as soon as possible. After wishing Aisha good morning, Maya was pleasantly surprised that the girl responded calmly to her. But Aisha asked why the priestess was still here, and Maya mentally took her words back. The girl replied that she was going to leave today. Maya pretended to be awkward and added that now she could definitely leave for her business. Then she said goodbye and quickly headed for the exit. Maya was glad that she managed to leave them as naturally as possible, but before she could leave the house, Raka called out to the priestess. She was surprised by his address. The man asked the girl if she saw any other clergymen there. It seemed like he was looking for an excuse for her to stay. Maya hesitated, because she was only in the body of a priestess and was not actually a priest either. She replied that there was no one else here. Raka handed the girl a frying pan. He asked the girl what she wanted to cook, and since the pan was dirty, he washed it. The girl tried with difficulty to imagine how the main villain in an apron rolling up his sleeves could wash a frying pan. The man leaned closer to Maya, making her even more nervous. He quietly said that if she wanted to poison the children, then this time Raka would pretend not to notice, and next time he would not let it go so easily. Raka added that he hoped the girl had understood everything correctly. Maya was a little surprised by such a statement, She had no intention of slipping poison to someone to poison them. Leaving the girl alone, Raka offered to cook her some food on the stove that was in the hut. Maya accepted that she couldn't leave so easily and agreed to cook something. Maya was a little puzzled that she would have to feed everyone in this house using only 3 ingredients for the dish. The girl walked over to the kitchen table and looked at the basket of vegetables that were going to be used for cooking. Then she heard the sound of breakfast being prepared behind her and turned around to look. Aisha and Delcane were already sitting at the table. Maya had to prepare a breakfast that the children could eat too. Otherwise, they would not spare her. Taking the onion in her hands, Maya began to think carefully about the dish, because she had already had to cook for herself for 6 years. After some time, she brings deliciously smelling fried potatoes with onions and carrots to the dinner table. The children were not happy with the dish they saw. Delcane looked at the plate with disgust, and Aisha even declared that she could not stand vegetables. Maya kindly explained to Aisha that the food was a little different from what she was usually used to eating, but she was worth trying it. The girl was very surprised by how much the children did not want to try these vegetables. She had never heard of anyone not liking fried potatoes. Realizing that Aisha would not be persuaded, Maya asked Delcane to try her dish. The boy excitedly picked up a fork and was almost ready to take a piece. Raka took the plate from Delcane and declared that he would be the first to try the fried potatoes. The man looked at Maya suspiciously and declared that it would be better this way. Maya was worried about Rocky's suspicions, as he himself had seen her cooking. The girl admitted that she had not added poison, and Rocky replied that no one had said anything about poison. The man put some potato in his mouth and began to chew, while Maya stood there and justified herself for simply informing Raka that there was no poison. Delcane was worried about his older brother's condition and asked how he was feeling. Raka chewed the potato a little and replied that the food was edible. Maya thought the man liked the dish. Maya was very pleased with what she had prepared. Delcane also joined his brother and began to taste the breakfast, which he also liked very much. The brothers invited Aisha to try the delicious potatoes, and she cautiously picked up a piece with her fork and began to eat it. The girl looked as if she liked the food too. After chewing the potato, the girl turned to Maya, calling her a priestess. The girl responded and was pleasantly surprised that they stopped calling her evil. Aisha liked the dish so much that she happily jumped up from the table and announced to Maya that she was hiring her to work in their house. Raka pointed to the priestess, saying that she would go to his house. The girl was confused. He ordered her to follow him, as he had something to tell her. They went outside and headed behind the house. The man asked if the girl had put medicine in her food. She didn't understand him. Poison that time. Medicine this time. How quickly his opinion changed. She replied that she had done nothing. Raka pointed out that Aisha did not let people approach her so easily. Maya thought, assuming that the girl simply liked her delicious fried potatoes. The girl responded in surprise that she had no idea about it. The man, suspicious, asked again if she had used some kind of trick, because Aisha would never make such a proposal herself. Maya smiled silently at him, trying to hide her irritation. After all, if he wanted to know the reason, then he should have asked the girl. Her silence seemed even stranger to him. He turned and began to leave, saying that the priestess would go with them to the mansion. She exclaimed, asking him to wait. Raka turned around questioningly. The girl hesitated. She was very nervous, not knowing what to say. After all, she could interact with other characters in the novel, but she was sure that she definitely shouldn't with the antagonist named Raka. A terrible thought flashed through her mind. Maybe he would want to kill her, but she couldn't tell him that. So Maya said that she had to take care of her younger sisters and brothers. Raka replied that she could take them with her to the Ainthia mansion. The girl clapped her hands in happiness. She happily asked if it was true, awkwardly emphasizing how wonderful it was, but she would miss her home very much. The man said she could go home once a week. Maya reluctantly agreed, thinking that this was not it at all. She began to say the first thing that came to mind, exclaiming that she had a husband and he was very jealous. Raka looked at Maya with a puzzled expression, then said that as far as he knew, priestesses could not marry. The girl looked at him pitifully, saying that she was not a priestess. He asked if anyone here could wear such white clothes except for people from the church. Maya said that it was not so. In fact, she liked such clothes. They were very comfortable. She began to spin around cheerfully, showing how comfortable her lovely dress was. Raka silently looked menacingly at the girl. Suddenly, a crack was heard, and she exclaimed, "Why did her dress tear? It couldn't happen." The man said, If it's comfortable for her, then it's her business, although her taste is rather strange. Maya awkwardly held the torn side of her dress, thinking she had overdone the act a bit. Raka asked where her husband and younger siblings were. Forcing a smile, she replied that if you went north from here, their house would be there. He asked how long it would take to get there. The girl guessed about an hour. She thought that an hour was quite a long time. He would have no chance to check right now. The man thought, saying that as far as he knew, there were only mountains in the north. Maya scratched her head, questioningly said, maybe it was in the west. Raka pointed out that the same applies to the western part. Only in the east there is a village an hour away. The girl joyfully exclaimed that this was true. Her family was in the east. She was just a little lost and did not understand which way the house was. And then the man added, in fact, the village is in the south. So everything she said earlier was a lie. She understood that she was in deep trouble. Raka approached the girl ominously, pressing her against the wall of the house. She wanted to run. He asked where she was going. Maya tried to calm herself down mentally and breathe evenly, saying that she would not run away anywhere. And, lowering her eyes, she asked the man to move away. He asked seriously how he could trust a person who lied all the time. Maya exclaimed that she was telling the truth now. It seemed to him that she was lying now. The girl was confused as to why he was taking someone he didn't trust at all. She asked him what she could do to make him trust her. Maya decided to listen to Teretus's advice. Although she does not have such an honorable name, she must try. The priestess asked the man if she could put her name on the line. Raka noticed that he still didn't know her name. He asked her what her name was. The girl started saying Ma, and suddenly froze. Maya thought that if she told him her real name, he would definitely think that she was a priestess. So she introduced herself as Mimir. Raka asked if she had a last name. The girl awkwardly looked away, twirling her hair around her finger. She asked if a person could not exist without a last name. In fact, she does not know if Maya has a last name. The priest called her by name. The man asked if she really had no last name or if she simply did not want to talk. The girl said it was true. In fact, she didn't know who her parents were. And it was true because in the novel, this line was never revealed. Maya may have a last name, but no one knew it because she was just a supporting character who complemented the main character, Kinesa's arc. And even when she suddenly dies, no one was interested because she is a minor character. The girl lowered her head and thought that perhaps it would have been better if she had been born from some travelers, so that she would not have died as ineptly as, for example, she had. Seeing Maya's saddened look, the man noticed that it seemed she had just told the truth. She confirmed his words, thinking that his voice had become calmer. The girl hoped that black magicians did not have some kind of lie detector. She thought that if she learned black magic, maybe she could get rich and make a reference agency. Raka asked what was that look in her eyes. Maya smiled, asking what was wrong with her eyes. She was afraid that she might accidentally say something about the information agency out loud. He began to emit black magic, saying that her eyes had just been half-possessed, something he had seen often before. Raka tried to remember where he had seen that sly look. Coming very close to Maya, face to face, he emphasized that he had definitely seen it somewhere before. His crazy look scared the girl. She said it didn't matter, offering to return to their conversation. He asked if she knew his name. The girl said his title and name. And besides, the Duke, who is good at black magic, but it is better to keep it a secret. After all, everyone will find out about it only after the kidnapping of the main character, Reina. The man assumed that the twins had told her about it. Maya laughed, confirming his words. But of course it was a lie, because when they saw her, they began to fuss and shout. Raka looked at the girl appraisingly, emphasizing that she had also done well with the children today. Maya giggled, saying that she had her own methods. What she really thought was that she was just using the lie she had told the twins earlier. The man had said it would be nice if she became the twins' nanny, noting that their nanny had just quit. The girl said that it was not surprising. Raka asked what she meant by that. Realizing her mistake, Maya panicked. She apologized for being lost in thought and asked the Duke to repeat himself. An awkward silence fell between them. Then Rakan repeated that he wanted to hire the girl as a nanny for Aisha and Delcane, even though she still seemed suspicious to him. But he had never seen anyone get along so well with the twins. Even Aisha herself wanted to hire her. But he could ask Shiram to keep an eye on the priestess while she worked. Rakan decided that he would do so. Maya thought if she was suspicious, then why didn't he just let her go? The girl thanked the Duke for his kindness, but she had no intention of going to their mansion. She believed that if she went there, she would not have a normal life, because Maya would always be worried that she could be killed at any moment. But of course, she couldn't tell Rakan that. The man offered 500 kirks. She asked if the Duke thought everyone was fooled by money. Rakan was sure of it. Maya hesitated and said that not everyone was like that, and the man offered 700 kirks. The girl cried out in the negative. Then he offered 800. She was beginning to get angry and asked if he thought she would agree, and Rakan raised the fee to 900 kirks. And suddenly Maya fell silent. She thought that with this money she could live peacefully in another country, but she was still plagued by doubts. And then the Duke offered 1,000 kirks. Maya immediately agreed. She was eager to work for the Duke. Considering that 6,000 kirks could be enough to live the rest of her life in complete prosperity, and that was only half a year. Therefore, she should take advantage of this chance. Perhaps she could even prevent Rocky and the main character from meeting. Then Kaniz wouldn't need divine power, and Maya would be able to survive. The Duke called out to the priestess from his thoughts. He mockingly asked if she had said that money would not influence her decision. Maya replied that she had not agreed to work for the money. They returned to the house. Raka sat down on a chair and could not stop laughing. Maya exclaimed, demanding that the man stop laughing. He agreed, but did not stop. He asked the priestess again if 1,000 kirks would be enough for her. She looked away and asked him to promise not to kill her. The Duke asked why he needed that. The girl hesitated, saying that in fact she was in danger. Raka indifferently asked from whom. Maya was silent. She thought that, of course, from him and from Emperor Kines, especially from Rak, who kills all the people who cross his path. He asked if she was saying that because Aisha had threatened to kill her. The priestess denied it. Although Aisha had indeed threatened her, Raka said that everything fits now. That's why she wanted to kill the twins the next day. Maya said that there was a misunderstanding. The man said that he understood everything, because survival is a basic instinct. Maya felt very awkward, because she thought that everything was completely wrong. It seemed to her that she was being made the most evil person in this world. The door swung open. Aisha suddenly flew into the house, asking what the two of them were talking about for so long. Maya was scared. She jumped back from the door in fear, and Raka caught her, grabbing her by the waist. She grabbed his shirt tightly with her hands on his chest and begged for forgiveness for such an awkward intimacy. Then she tripped and fell to the floor, dragging the Duke with her. The man leaned on her. He was too heavy, and Maya asked if he was okay. There was a strange smell of black magic. Raka came close to her face, and Maya pushed him away, asking what he was doing. The man told her not to push him away. He asked why he felt so good. The girl was shaking with fear. She asked what he was talking about. The Duke lifted her to her feet, hugging her around the waist. He said that he was talking about her. Delcane entered the house, asking Aisha why she was standing at the door. The girl looked at the adults in shock. And when he saw what was happening, the boy blushed no less than his sister. Delcane asked his sister if this was a relationship between adults. Aisha suggested that it was. They weren't wasting their time. The priestess awkwardly pushed Rock away from her. The boy exclaimed enthusiastically, "Now they can call the priestess daughter-in-law." Aisha was indignant. It sounded crazy. Delcane asked why she thought that, since it seemed like her brother and sister-in-law were having a romantic relationship. Aisha protested, saying that a sister-in-law was different and that she had to get married. The boy said that they could get married since she had already saved his life. Aisha still didn't like her brother's idea. Maya was on Aisha's side with all her thoughts. Delcane asked if his sister remembered the book their brother had read to them. It said that a person who saved another's life was actually destined. Maya was intrigued by the book. The girl exclaimed, "Why couldn't they save her then?" Delcane folded his arms across his chest and answered in all seriousness, "It was all the will of fate." Aisha covered her ears in anger so as not to hear her brother's nonsense. She screamed that she did not want to hear him, asking if there was a dog barking somewhere. While Maya was watching the children quarreling, she did not notice Raka approaching her. The children continued to argue. Maya felt as if Raka had fallen asleep leaning against her. Delcane demanded that Aisha address him with respect, since he was born before her. The girl grabbed him by the collar, claiming that the difference of a minute was completely unimportant. Things were getting close to a fight, and Maya asked the children to stop. They grabbed each other by the hair and began to pull. The priestess again tried to attract attention to herself, but they did not listen to her at all. The girl thought that on one side of her there were two puppies barking at each other, and a big dog was hanging on her. She didn't know what to do. Maya called Rock, and he answered her immediately. He removed his happy face from her shoulder and looked into her eyes. The girl felt as if he was under a spell. Rock's ears and cheeks were flushed, and he was staring at Maya. The girl apologized for calling his name, but she couldn't wake him up any other way. The man suggested that Maya continue to call him by his name and hugged her again, resting his head on her shoulder. The girl said that they needed to stop the twins' quarrel before it led to an accident. Raka replied that this would only harden them. Aisha became even more angry, worried about the state of her hair, and began to emit black magic. Delcane exclaimed that she had started it. She emphasized that her brother couldn't even use black magic. He could only fight. The boy noted that it didn't matter because his sister's head was empty anyway. Maya got nervous. She asked the Duke to look at the children. He agreed but remained glued to the priestess. Aisha screamed that she would not leave it like that. Delcane turned to his daughter-in-law, exclaiming that she should take care of herself. Suddenly, Raka released her from his embrace, turned around, and used black magic, stopping the little girl's mischief. The girl screamed in pain. Maya fell to the floor. The house was covered in smoke. The priestess noticed that the magic had even damaged the floors. Raka turned to the twins. Delcane asked for his forgiveness. Aisha grumbled that he only had himself to apologize for. Raka told the girl that she would be punished for using black magic. The girl wanted to object, but her older brother did not let her say a word, saying that he had warned her that she could only use black magic if something threatened her life. Aisha exclaimed that she understood that, but Delcane had said that Raka would marry the priestess. He looked questioningly at his sister, and the girl blushed and cried out even more forcefully, asking when the two of them had become so close and whether it was true that her brother was going to marry her. Maya felt nervous. From her endless experience reading romantic fantasy, one could say that in such situations, villains could lose their temper. The girl jumped up and stood between Raka and the children, asking them to wait. She was ready to provide an explanation. The man asked why this was necessary. He was sure the priestess had used some trick on him. Maya looked at him indignantly, because she was the one who pushed him away when he hugged the girl. She exclaimed that she had done nothing of the sort. Raka approached the girl, asking if she meant to say that she had brought him to this state, but had done nothing. Maya turned to the children, objecting that because of his outrageous speeches, the children could misunderstand everything. The man smiled contentedly, saying that he was telling the truth, that there could be misunderstanding here. Aisha shuddered. Delcane stressed that she could see he was right. The girl still couldn't believe it. He suggested she just accept it. As Maya had feared, they had already misunderstood everything. The girl was upset. No matter how hard she tried, everything only got worse. She sat down, burying her face in the table. Raka suggested that they talk frankly, since the children had already left. She repeated that she had done nothing. He emphasized that it was better for Maya to tell everything now, while she was being politely asked. Raising her head, the girl objected that she was telling the truth. She concluded that Raka was not behaving this way of his own free will, but looking at him it was clear that he himself did not understand anything. Maya wondered if she could use black magic too. Although it was doubtful that a minor character would have such a skill, Raka asked if this meant that he himself had approached the priestess without any reason. The girl emphasized that in fact she was good at keeping secrets, and she can pretend that nothing happened. Raka looked at Maya with horror. His gaze frightened her. She clapped her hands joyfully, saying, "And there will be nothing between them." The Duke asked if she didn't like him that much. The girl was surprised, assuming she had misheard, and he repeated his question. The man turned away, exhaling. He told her to forget about it. It seemed he had gone crazy after all. Maya was tensely silent, thinking he was right, and he suddenly looked at her ominously again. Maya turned away sharply, thinking that she had relaxed too much. She laughed to dispel the awkward atmosphere. Raka ordered her not to laugh as it irritated him. The girl obediently agreed. Raka threatened that if Maya did not tell what happened, he would come to the mansion and look for information on her. He would find out who she really is. The girl calmly replied that she understood him. In fact, she was very worried that if he found out who she really was, would he send her to the temple. The man approached Maya, leaned over, and asked if she knew what it meant. The girl replied that she had no choice because he would find out anyway. Raka pointed out that if he found out about this in the mansion, then many people would know who she was, besides him. Maya tried her best not to show fear. She asked what she got out of it, and he added that someone might not like her dubious person, and she might be kicked out or killed. The girl reminded him of the Duke's promise not to kill her. The man said he might change his mind if the people around him insisted. Maya clenched her fists. She thought that if she returned to the temple, her efforts would be in vain. She ran away, was going to work as a nanny, dreamed of the future. Was it all in vain? Raka said. Of course he doesn't want to kill her, because no one can handle the twins like she can, and in such a way that the children themselves will ask her to be their nanny. Maya suggested that they just pretend that nothing had happened. She had hope, and she said decisively that she was ready to become the twins' nanny. She hoped he was serious when he said he wanted to hire her as a nanny. Raka was surprised because they had already agreed that Maya would be their nanny. The girl reminded him that she had not yet signed the contract and that he himself considered her to be only a hindrance to him. The man looked away thoughtfully, saying that he had not thought about it. Sitting down at the table, Raka said he had to apologize for being so negative. He smiled, saying he should have been more patient. In any case, Maya had done nothing wrong, so there was no need to find out who she was just yet. He would gradually learn about the priestess as long as she was around, so she shouldn't refuse to be a nanny. The girl looked at him silently. It seemed to her that the Duke was kind to her. The door of the house opened. Delcane exclaimed that he had arrived. The boy was holding some kind of plant in his hands, saying that he could not find anything. They were all dried up like this one. Maya asked what it was. The Duke said she didn't need to know. Delcane added, "It was the Shakir flower." Raka glared at him, and the boy fell silent. The girl asked if the boy had gone with Aisha to buy flowers. He replied that he had gone alone because Aisha had gone to her room and was not coming out. Raka examined the flower, wondering if it was possible that the boy hadn't looked properly. It seemed he would have to go and check. The man stood up from the table and announced that the priestess would go with him. She exclaimed in surprise, mentally asking him to leave her alone. Maya screamed, no matter what, she was not going anywhere. The Duke asked the reasons for her persistence. The girl smiled, saying that even if there was a reason, he would still force her to go. Maya thought she had no time for some flower hunt. Raka said if she had any reason, he would listen to her. The girl asked him not to force her to go if she told. The man agreed, and Maya said, first of all, her dress is torn, showing her side. She added that she can't go out like that. Raka said, it can't be seen unless she raises her hands. The girl said sheepishly that she still felt awkward about this sight, because no one walks around in torn clothes. The man thought about it. Maya thought that her persuasion was starting to work. She continued, secondly, she is a real homebody, so Maya does not like to go outside. She told all the reasons, therefore she emphasized that the Duke should go himself. Raka asked if the priestess really called these reasons. The girl became nervous, considering them to be weighty. Delcane, sitting at the table, listened to this heresy, he said, turning to his brother, that he must keep his promise because it is important to keep your word. He asked his sister-in-law if he was right, and Maya, with tears in her eyes, agreed with him. Promises must be kept. She thought that the boy was her only savior in this dark world. He was a real angel. Delcane asked if his brother had forgotten that promises had to be kept. Maya never missed an opportunity to support the boy. Raka knew he would find no way to turn the situation to his advantage. Maya stroked the boy's head, saying that keeping promises is the main rule in life. She asked him not to forget about it. He agreed, since it was not difficult. Raka watched their unity nervously. Maya looked at the man with satisfaction, telling Delcane to watch the Duke. He would set an example. The Duke, clearly angry, closed his eyes and held back his emotions, and said that he had gone to get flowers. The girl thought that this was 2-1 against the darkness, and this is more due to his blood relative. Maya and the boy left the house. They happily waved to the man, saying goodbye to Rakan and wishing him luck. Maya sat by the window, sighing sadly. She remembered how Rakan threatened her, saying that the girl knew what would happen to her if she ran away in his absence. Delcane called the priestess, handing her a cup. He offered her a drink. The girl thanked him joyfully. She was surprised how blood relatives could be so different. The boy awkwardly apologized to his daughter-in-law, hoping that she would be able to understand him. He was very embarrassed, saying that his brother was not very good at expressing his thoughts, but he is sure that he truly loves her with all his heart. Maya blushed. She thought it was time to sort out this misunderstanding. She stood up, saying that she and the Duke had no relationship. The boy was touched, saying that judging by her blush, she also had feelings for her brother. He was a bit mean, but he really liked her. Maya thought it was all wrong. Delcane added enthusiastically that he could swear to it. He had never seen his brother look at anyone like that. The girl tried again to explain everything as a misunderstanding, but the boy grabbed her hands, objecting that he had read about it in a book. He exclaimed that the eyes, they could not lie. He said that he understood that his daughter-in-law was angry now, but could she forgive his brother at least once? Delcane looked at her with such a sweet, pitiful look. The girl understood that it would be extremely difficult to convince him, so she simply answered that she understood him. She thought that perhaps Delcane would be the hardest to deal with. Meanwhile, Raka walked through the forest in search of Shakir's flowers. His search was going poorly. Raka found only dried Shakir flowers and not a single living one. He was upset, thinking that this had never happened before. These flowers belonged to the imperial family, so he had no choice but to steal the flowers. He wanted to look around more, when suddenly he heard voices. Turning around, he saw the imperial knights. One was suggesting to the other that they look for flowers instead of tending to the temple. They were discussing the interrupted blessing ceremony. Raka realized that the imperial knights were secretly cooperating with the temple, which explained why they had been strangely quiet lately. One of the men noted that the priests were telling the truth. There really were no flowers. The second suggested that they were not looking hard enough, ordering him to search more carefully. Raka was hiding behind a tree, listening to them. He thought about it, deciding to analyze the information he had received. First, the emperor had come to the temple for a blessing ceremony, but for some reason the ceremony was interrupted. Secondly, the imperial family also does not know where Shakir flowers grow. Thirdly, flowers do not grow now. Therefore, he believed that he needed this woman, Mimir, a woman who had abilities similar to the effect of the Shakir flower. Raka was pleased that he had managed to persuade her to become the twins' nanny. But he was worried about one problem. Why did he feel so wonderful when he hugged her? He felt as if he had drunk a decoction with a large concentrate of the Shakir flower. It seemed to him as if all his energy had been drained. Raka had lost control of his mind and body. He just wanted to be with her. The man assumed that the girl's touch had this effect on him. When it comes to touch, there is only one person that comes to Raka's mind: Reina Adrienne. She can put a person to sleep with just one touch, the woman Raka has been looking for a long time. But Mimir is absolutely not like Reina. Be that as it may, the Duke decided that he must not let Mimir go under any circumstances. So he would now need to buy her new clothes. It seemed to the man that the priestess was very upset because her dress was torn. Returning to the house, Raka finds the priestess sitting at the table, her head on the table, fast asleep. The man put down the shopping and sat down next to her. Looking at the girl, he thought that she slept well. The Duke was sure that, although he did not know who she was, this woman would definitely be useful to him in the future. Delcane entered the house. Raka asked if the priestess had done anything suspicious. The boy replied that she had been sleeping all this time. Then the man asked if Aisha was still sulking. Delcane answered positively, but Aisha suddenly screamed in contradiction, and the door suddenly slammed shut, frightening the boy. The boy wondered why the door had closed so abruptly. Had his brother closed it on purpose to protect the priestess in this way? Delcane beamed, believing that his brother loved the priestess after all. Raka was surprised by the boy's reaction. He asked what was wrong with him. Delcane answered, "Nothing unusual." And he began to leave. His brother warned that they would be leaving tomorrow in the first half of the day. Yawning ostentatiously, Delcane agreed, saying that he would go to his room since he was already so sleepy. Closing the door behind him, the boy smiled mysteriously. He thought he had read about it in a book. Lovers should be left alone at the beginning of a relationship. Delcane wished his brother a good time. At the same time, Raka did not understand why his brother was behaving so unusually. Maya opened her eyes to find that it was already dawn. She had no idea how long she had been asleep. As she stretched her arms, she found a blanket over her, assuming that Delcane had covered her. Raka entered the house, closed the door, and ordered the girl to enter the room. She asked if anyone had come to him and if he was expecting anyone. The man replied that he didn't know anyone here. The fact that they had come all the way through the forest to get here, Raka assumed that they were looking for something. And for starters, the priestess should not leave the room, Maya agreed. She went to the kitchen cupboard, saying that she would take a frying pan just in case. Raka agreed. The girl thought, so what if it looks weird? It was the only weapon she could trust for self-defense. Maya entered the room and locked the door, leaning against it. She stood quietly, clutching the frying pan in her hands. The girl pressed her ear to the door. Judging by the sound, the door opened. She wondered who it could be. The imperial knight apologized to the duke for disturbing him so early in the morning. Raka crossed his arms over his chest, saying that if they were really sorry, they should leave here as soon as possible. And since they had everything, he was leaving. The knight panicked. He exclaimed that they had one question. He asked if the young gentleman had seen a blonde with blue eyes here. Maya heard their conversation and was very scared. Raka replied that he had not met any girl here. The knights wanted to check it out for themselves. The duke asked if they planned to search someone else's house without permission. The knights presented him with a document certifying that they were imperial knights, hoping that would do. The knights entered the house. Maya stood by the door, holding the frying pan tightly. She was shaking with fear, thinking that just one blow she could not make a mistake. The men opened the door to the room. Raka said that it was better not to go in there. This was his brother and sister's room. They were a bit wild. The children screamed when they saw the strangers. Aisha exclaimed who they were to enter their room. Delcane told his sister to grab the knight. Maya wondered if she should try to rely on the twins. She quietly approached the bed and began to straighten the bedspread, assuming that in any case it would be better for her to cover herself with the blanket and hide. As Maya wrapped herself in a blanket, she heard Delcane scream. She was very excited. He was the only angel on her side. The boys screamed, ordering the knight to let him go. The knight grabbed Delcane and, trying to hold him back, screamed, "What kind of idiot is this, and why is he biting?" The knight was very angry. He ordered the children to behave normally, not understanding why they were so naughty. Maya ran out of the room and hit the knight on the head with a frying pan with all her might. Ordering him to take his hands off the boy, the knight fell to the floor and passed out. The girl froze, realizing that she had hit a man. Aisha happily shouted that she was the one who hired her. Delcane admired his daughter-in-law's coolness. Another knight lay next to them, knocked out by the girl. The children couldn't stop admiring the girl, praising her, how great she was. Raka approached Maya and said that they should leave before they woke up. The girl agreed, and they boarded the carriage. Aisha enthusiastically asked the priestess how she came up with the idea of using a frying pan as a weapon. Delcane added that it was a brilliant idea. Maya awkwardly scratched her cheek, saying that she didn't even know what to say. It was a first for her, too. The children said that memoirs should be written about this feat. Raka asked the girl why the imperial knights were looking for her. Maya asked again in surprise. Was it hers? The man turned to her, directing a piercing gaze at her. He said, "The knights said that they were looking for a blonde with blue eyes." The girl became nervous, answering that it must all be a coincidence. Maya thought it would be better to pretend that she didn't know anything. The children were indignant, exclaiming why their brother was scaring the priestess, since it was she who had saved them with the frying pan. Maya was so happy about their protection. Aisha screamed that the priestess shouldn't marry her brother. He would do more for her, so the girl offered to marry the priestess. Aisha asked if she had just sounded cool. Delcane replied that it was not at all. He asked if his daughter-in-law was crazy. Why would she want to become Aisha's property? Maya smiled awkwardly, listening to the children's argument. The girl exclaimed that in any case, it was she who hired the priestess, so she was hers. She leaned towards the girl, asking if she was hers. Maya replied that hiring someone does not mean that this person is now the property of the employer. Aisha said decisively that it is hers, clarifying that it is not her brother's, but hers, and she will never give up what belongs to her. The girl was scared. She had previously thought that Raka was a bright representative of a possessed person, but it turned out that he was not the only one. The man smiled, saying that it was good that she did not give away what belonged to her, but she had to look at the enemy and then act. Raka pointed out that technically only he could hire people. Aisha reminded him that it was she who had suggested hiring a priestess. The man said that in that case she should try not to lose it. The atmosphere in the carriage was tense. Maya really wanted to jump out of it. The carriage arrived at the estate. Raka entered the office, thinking that the girl was being sought by the imperial family itself. He suggested that it was all because of her characteristics, similar to the effect of the shakir flower. He approached the table and began to arrange the papers, preparing a contract for the priestess. Raka was very serious. He could not lose her, especially now that all the flowers of shakir had withered. The Duke took out a pen and began to write. The door opened and Shirom Iragi, Raki's assistant, rushed into the office. He awkwardly asked to be forgiven for being late. The Duke noticed that Shirom had become very relaxed in his absence. The man exclaimed that this was not so. He tried to do everything correctly. Raka asked if there was any news related to the imperial family. The assistant hesitated, saying that there was none. But since yesterday there have been rumors that the daughter of the god has appeared in the temple of Teretus. It seems her name is Maya. Raka folded his arms and asked if she had any powers. Shirom replied that they did not have such information and would have to conduct an investigation to find out. The Duke ordered his assistant to take care of this and also to find out everything about the woman he had brought to the mansion, only in secret from everyone. Shirom agreed plaintively and moved towards the door, but Raka called out to him, ordering him to tell the woman to come to him. Looking at the document, the Duke thought that this should be enough to conclude the contract. He remembered an important detail. Raka had added a payment of 1,500 kirks to the contract, and the priestess was obliged to sleep with him every night. Maya held the contract in her hands and couldn't believe her eyes when she saw the payment. She held the document up, holding it up to the light, and wondering if the Duke knew who she really was. Would he throw money around like that? After waiting a long time, the man asked if she thought the payment was too small. Maya denied his words, asking the Duke why he decided to give her such a salary. Smiling, he asked if she had read all the terms of the contract. Maya began to read the terms carefully. Housing and food are provided, and she was also pleased by the clause prohibiting her from being killed and a payment of 1,500 kirks. And suddenly she froze, then asked what the last clause meant. Raka made it clear that it should be understood as it was written. The girl asked if they would sleep in the same bedroom. She was scared that it would have to happen every night. The Duke jumped up and went to Maya to take the contract, saying that he had forgotten to write something else. The girl turned away in panic, clutching the document to herself and asking the Duke to wait. She pointed out that the Duke had hired her as a nanny for the twins, not for him. Raka paused, saying that he understood that. Maya asked him again if he was sure about that. After all, he must understand that the last point is different from what they had discussed earlier. The girl stared at the Duke, waiting for an answer. The man hesitated, thought for a moment, and then asked what if he said that he really needed her. Maya objected, as she could not do anything for him. Raka pointed out that she could do something. The girl panicked, not understanding what he meant. She blushed, thinking, this is not what comes to mind first. Does the Duke want her to serve him at night? Raka never seemed like that kind of character to her. The girl screamed, flatly refusing to serve the Duke at night. Raka hesitated, clarifying the meaning of the word serve in her sentence. Maya asked if that was not the case, then what was the reason? The man replied that he wanted to finish writing something, but she herself did not let him. With a trembling voice, she asked what exactly he wanted to write. Raka replied that he wanted to write in this point, "We will only hold hands." The girl thought about it. Holding hands eventually turns into hugs and kisses, and in the end, everything goes to the same outcome. Maya replied that she would no longer wash before going to bed and would wash her hair once a week. Raka first asked what that meant, then thoughtfully replied that he would take that into account. The girl was angered by his answer. She was interested in what he was going to take into account. Maya exclaimed that she did not want to tell him this, but in fact, she does not sleep well. He thrashes about in his sleep, speaks, snores, and grinds his teeth. And she happily emphasized that he also drools in his sleep. Raka silently looked at the priestess. She believed that now he would definitely cancel the last point. After all the things she had mentioned seemed terrible to her. Raka said that it was all very serious. Maya happily suggested that in that case she would not disturb the Duke. Therefore, it is better to cancel the last point. The man continued that nothing could be changed. The girl's hands trembled. She exclaimed, "Why not?" Raka replied that he needed the ability she was hiding, the ability that would allow her to immobilize her opponent. The man at this point relaxes and falls asleep. The girl assumed that he knew she was Maya, but she could not return to the temple. Maya agreed on one condition. If the Duke broke the rule, just holding hands, then this clause was automatically canceled. Raka assured the girl that there would be no contact between them except holding hands. She should not worry. He asked if she agreed now. The priestess placed the contract on the Duke's desk, asking him to add one more thing. He was to hide her, and no matter what, not send her back to the temple. Maya felt that she needed to be as safe as possible. So she asked Raka if he could add this clause. The man agreed if she really needed it. The girl enthusiastically asked the Duke to write it down quickly. Raka asked if he could sign the contract now. Maya agreed. She picked up the contract, thinking she needed to sign it quickly before the Duke changed his mind. And she handed it back to the Duke. Looking at her signature, the man asked if her name wasn't Maymir. The girl replied that her real name was Maya. Raka asked her again, then looked at the signature strangely. He asked the girl if she was Maya from the Temple of Teradus. The priestess hesitated. She replied that she had to go and ran out of the office. Maya walked along the corridor excitedly, convincing herself that everything would be fine. And who knows, maybe she was lucky. As she entered the room, she breathed a sigh of relief. Now she didn't have to worry about Raka finding out about her real identity. The girl thought that her ability worked on Rak, but she wondered why she was fine. Apparently, this ability is completely different from the effect of the blessing. Perhaps she is not using her ability, but simply passing it on. Looking at her hands, Maya wondered why Rake needed her ability. The children's cries were heard calling for the priestess. Maya turned around, not understanding where the sound was coming from. The children joyfully shouted that they were there at the fence of her balcony and invited her to go play with them. Delcane asked if his sister-in-law had finished talking to their brother. Maya was surprised by their appearance. Looking out onto the balcony, the girl saw that the children were hanging on the railing. She emphasized that it was dangerous to hang like that and asked them to move away so that she could climb over to them. Having climbed down to the twins, the girl asked what they were doing there. The children hesitated. Then Delcane exclaimed that Aisha had said she didn't want to train and ran away. Aisha angrily asked her brother why he was telling her that. After all, she had asked him to keep it a secret. Maya concluded that they were idle, but she understood them. When she was younger and didn't want to go to school, she had deliberately chosen a different path. The priestess thoughtfully said that there was nothing wrong with that. The children suddenly fell silent, looking at her in surprise. Aisha enthusiastically said that she really liked the priestess. After all, she is a good judge of character. Delcane laughed, noting that their brother had also fallen for his daughter-in-law's charms. Aisha reminded her brother that he could not call the priestess his daughter-in-law. Delcane objected. He thought they should get used to the fact that their brother and sister-in-law would marry. The girl was sure that this would not happen. Maya quietly hoped that the children would calm down. Aisha asked who the priestess liked more, her or her brother. The girl hesitated because she didn't like either of them. Delcane asked his sister why she was asking such questions, because the answer was so obvious. He assured her that his sister-in-law liked his brother, and he was sure that his sister understood this herself. Aisha denied everything. The boy said that if his daughter-in-law liked her more, she would not hesitate. Aisha was angry at first, but then, apparently realizing the whole truth, she became very upset. Delcane happily took his daughter-in-law's hand and asked if it wouldn't be better for them to play without his sister. He offered to show the girl the mansion. Aisha objected. Grabbing the priestess's other hand, she exclaimed that she knew the mansion better than Delcane, and she should go with her. The girl suddenly blushed and froze. Maya got nervous and called her. Aisha started shaking and asked what the priestess had done to her. The girl did not understand what she was talking about and replied that she had done nothing. Aisha cried out, accusing the priestess of lying. Now Maya was shaking. She smiled silently, wondering if it wouldn't be better for the girl to tell her herself what was wrong. Delcane asked his sister what had happened. The girl replied that the priestess had done something strange to her. She felt weak and her heart began to pound. After a moment's hesitation, she added that she had also smelled a pleasant odor. It was such a pleasant sensation. Aisha thought she would lose her mind. There was an awkward silence between them. Maya wondered if it was similar to what had happened to Raka. Had she used Maya's ability? The girl asked if Aisha could hold her hand again. The girl categorically refused. Maya looked at Delcane. He was fine. She was tormented by the question of why this ability only worked on Aisha and Rak. She asked if the boy felt as strange as Aisha. He looked irritated and surprised, asking his daughter-in-law if she believed his sister. He emphasized that Aisha just wanted to look good in front of her. The twins cast a withering glance at each other. Maya thought that their relationship was deteriorating because of her. She asked Delcane to come closer to her. The priestess leaned in, saying that she thought Aisha was telling the truth. The boy asked her incredulously why she thought so. Maya hesitated, because the same thing happened to Raka when he hugged her. But if she said so, it would only make things worse. The girl replied that his sister was not one to lie. Delcane agreed, and Maya asked him to console Aisha. Aisha intervened in the conversation, grumbling about what they were talking about without her. The boy angrily ordered her to wait. He asked his daughter-in-law with displeasure if she wanted Aisha to go with them. Maya replied that the more of them there were, the more fun they would have. Delcane agreed. The girl stroked his head, saying how good he was. The boy went to his sister. He said that if Aisha liked her daughter-in-law, she should not behave like that. The girl exclaimed that she really felt a very strange sensation. Maya was worried. It didn't seem like Delcane was comforting Aisha. The boy asked if his daughter-in-law had done anything bad to Aisha. After thinking about it, she replied that it was a pleasant feeling. And then Delcane said that if Aisha behaved in this way, then the daughter-in-law would definitely marry her brother. The girl exclaimed that this would not happen. She would never allow her brother to marry a priestess. The boy seriously said that she should stop whining if she did not want to lose her daughter-in-law. Aisha approached Maya, guiltily saying that she was too sentimental. It was all because the priestess did something to her. The girl was surprised to see another side of Aisha that she had no idea existed. Maya asked if the girl would give her a tour of the mansion because she wanted to look around now. Her legs were already starting to hurt. Aisha excitedly agreed. She didn't want the priestess's legs to hurt. Maya pointed a finger at random, suggesting they start from that side. Delcane said they couldn't go there. If they went that way, they'd all get caught. The girl became nervous, but this did not surprise her at all, because she considered herself a master of bad luck. Aisha tugged the priestess's sleeve, awkwardly asking if they could hold hands, or at least take one of the priestess's fingers. The girl seemed very cute at that moment. Maya had never seen her like that. She thought that her ability was affecting Aisha so much and was worried if everything would be okay if they did this. She decided to try it and held out her finger to the girl. Aisha took it and began to say that it was better now, compared to the last time. Maya suggested that if the contact was not very close, her ability would not work as well. Aisha plaintively asked the priestess if she could call her Unni. The girl looked cuter than before, and Maya was worried whether the effect had really diminished. After examining the mansion, the girl went to her room, and from fatigue, she lay down on her bed. Maya thought about how big the mansion was, which made the walk back a little longer. But she was glad that the twins got along with her. They were a little crazy, but she didn't really care anymore. And the salary was 1,500 Kirk. This job seemed like a fairy tale to Maya. 6,000 Kirk would be enough for her, so she planned to work for 4 months and leave. The girl began to happily rock on the bed. Suddenly, she heard an unusual noise from under the bed and got scared. She crept up to the edge and looked under it, seeing only a shadow and 2 glowing eyes. Maya screamed, and someone from under the bed yelled at her to be quiet. The door to the girl's room suddenly opened, and an agitated night mystic stood there, wondering what had happened. The girl laughed awkwardly, saying that she had just almost fallen out of bed. The man asked the mist to be careful. The knight left, and Maya looked down. A creature crawled out from under the bed. The girl asked if it was a black pig. The animal was indignant. Raising its paws, it answered that it was a raccoon. Maya asked why Teritus was here in such a form. The god replied that he wanted to be a nice creature this time, and asked Maya what she thought about it. The girl remarked that it was nice, but he stank terribly. Teritus was dejected, saying that he thought Maya would like this cute appearance, but she went and offended him. The girl emphasized that the fact that he was dirty would not go away. She asked him what brought him here. Tiritus replied that he came here to tell her about her ability. Maya exclaimed joyfully, saying how wonderful it was. The girl couldn't believe how she could forget that Tiritus knew everything about Maya's abilities. She asked him to tell her everything. Tiritus said the most important thing he wanted to tell her, and he fell silent. After an awkward pause, he began to say that the floor was hard, suggesting that they talk on the bed. As soon as he put his paws on it, Maya began to push the raccoon, screaming that this would not happen. Having miscalculated his strength, the raccoon flew off to another part of the room. Maya excitedly picked up the raccoon, asking him to forgive her and asking if everything was okay with him. Tiritus sadly replied that he was fine. Tears came to his eyes, and the god added that he would not appear in this form again. Maya rubbed herself against the raccoon and plaintively asked for forgiveness. She was just angry. Tiritus was indignant, saying who else should be angry with whom. The girl replied that it was true, but the merciful Tiritus did not know what anger was. God noticed that Maya had a gift for gab. Maya was surprised. Tiritus calmed down sooner than she thought. God suggested going back to the beginning of the conversation. He asked if Maya had experienced any strange feelings lately. The girl confirmed this. Tiritus began to explain everything to Maya. This happened because she did not give the blessing. Maya's ability is a Tiritus-enhanced version of the Shakir flower's power. The girl had no idea that her abilities were connected to the Shakir flower. She asked how it was connected to the blessing. God replied that the Shakir flower in moderate quantities acts as a sedative, but in excess it has a stimulating effect. Maya asked again what stimulating meant. Tiritus answered, "Simply put, it affects others as if someone had drunk a love potion." The girl asked again because she did not understand anything. God continued, "Because Maya is blessed, her powers have awakened, and her ability only manifests itself when in contact with someone." The girl exclaimed, "Why is he telling about this only now?" Tiritus emphasized that last time they had to quickly separate, but he came as soon as he learned that Maya had agreed to spend the night with the Duke. The girl insisted that this was why he should have told her about it earlier. If she had known about it, she would not have accepted Rocky's conditions. God said that if Maya wanted to get rid of her ability, she could give a blessing. Maya grabbed the raccoon by the scruff of the neck. Asking him to repeat what he had just said, the animal trembled. Tiritus screamed, demanding that the girl let him go, for this was blasphemy. Maya continued to hold the god by the fur. She asked if there was another way, and if there was, he had better tell her. Tiritus asked plaintively if Maya would let him go if he told her. The girl agreed. Having lowered the animal to the floor, the god began to tell about the existence of sacred relics similar to his aura. With their help, one can block the ability. If you touch the relic, it will have a stabilizing effect. Maya asked if God brought the sacred relic for her. He replied that sacred objects are not created for such a purpose. Maya was incensed, and Tiritus corrected himself, saying that since he was partly to blame for this, he would give her something. In return, if she did use the relic, she would have to help him a little. The girl thought that the main thing for her was to hold out for 4 months, so she happily agreed. Tiritus promised to bring her soon, and for now he said goodbye to Maya. But Maya stopped him, asking if her body was suffering from using the ability. He explained that this problem would only arise when she gave a blessing. She also wondered if her ability could not affect someone. Tiritus replied that it shouldn't work on an ordinary person, because the Shakir flower only works on those. Someone who has special abilities. For example, superpower, holy or magical power. Maya realized that the ability did not work on Delcane because he is not a black magician. Tiritus left, and Maya lay on the bed, looking at her hands, and taking in all the information she had heard. She thought that was the difference between a main character and a supporting character. After all, Reina can simply make a person fall asleep, whereas Maya has no control over her powers at all. The girl was so happy to earn 6,000 Kirks, but now she felt only annoyance. Maya was very tired, more mentally than physically. She decided that it would be better to try to change something than just thinking about why she is doing this. The girl mentally encouraged herself. She needed to think of something quickly, because starting tomorrow, Maya would be spending the night with Raka. And she fell asleep. The girl was awakened by an unfamiliar female voice. Opening her eyes, she was frightened to find a maid in the room. She introduced herself. The maid's name is Rita. She works in the East Wing. Maya asked what brought her here. Rita informed the miss that the Duke was calling her. The girl asked what time it was. The maid answered that it was past midnight. The girl thought that according to the contract, she would start work tomorrow, but apparently she had to start work now because it was already midnight. Maya thought her boss was angry. The maid asked Miss about her health. The girl asked if the maid could tell him that she was sleeping. She refused Miss because the Duke's order was above all else. The priestess was upset. Was there really no one in the Einthia mansion who could be on her side? Getting out of bed, the girl put on her slippers, telling the maid to take her to the Duke. She felt that there was no choice but to face the problem head-on. The maid called to the nanny, saying that she should first change her clothes. Only then would they go to the Duke. Maya turned around. Seeing a cute nightgown, Rita excitedly announced that she had prepared the clothes especially for her. The girl was embarrassed, wondering if she needed it. She said that the Duke was not calling her for that reason. The maid giggled, blushing. She said that she should not be embarrassed in front of her. Maya asked if the Duke had told her that she did not have to wash before the meeting. The maid remembered the Duke saying that Maya did not need to wash and that it should not affect her sleep. But she told the nanny that he had said that the servants should pay special attention to her. It was her first day, so of course she was nervous. And after this instruction, Rita realized that she, as a servant of Duke Einthius, had a very responsible task. And Maya thought that no matter what she said, she would not be able to correct this misunderstanding. The girl arrived at the Duke's room. The man invited her to come in, but she did not dare to do so. Maya was very embarrassed. She had to cover her nightgown with a robe. Maya was very worried about what Teradus was saying. In moderation, the ability acts as a sedative, but in excess, it has a stimulating effect. She believed that until the god brought her the sacred relic, she should try to avoid contact as much as possible. Raka noticed the girl's sad look and asked if there was any problem. The girl answered negatively. The Duke sat down on the bed, looking at Maya. He suggested that if there were no problems, then why didn't she take off her robe and lie down? Maya excitedly asked why she needed to take off her robe. Raka suggested that she was hot. The girl began to deny it. She was not hot at all in this warm robe. She really didn't want Raka to see her in these clothes. Maya told him no touching, but she came dressed like that, as if hinting at something else. The man asked seriously if she was hiding something under her robe. In fact, Maya was afraid to even think about something like that, let alone do it. She laughed, saying that she had no need to do that, and sat down next to him. Raka looked at the girl suspiciously and said, considering her behavior earlier, it was quite possible. Maya sheepishly emphasized that he himself understood that she simply had no other choice. She accepted her mistakes. The Duke smiled, saying that this was good, for she who was called the daughter of God should not act with evil intent. It sounded like Maya was somehow at fault and she was asking for forgiveness. Raka said she didn't need to apologize. He doesn't know why the priestess decided to run away from the temple, but if he were in her situation, he would have tried to hide it too. Maya thought the Duke understood her and assumed he was not so bad after all. And Raka asked what that stupid expression was. Maya mentally took her words back. The girl touched her face with her palms, exclaiming that she did not have a stupid expression at all. Raka laughed. He was glad that Maya had finally relaxed. He noted that it would be uncomfortable to sleep with the tree still and went to bed. Maya asked him, confused, if it really was uncomfortable. Raka said if she was feeling uncomfortable, then he would feel uncomfortable too. Besides, they needed to get something from each other. They needed each other. Maya agreed with the Duke, and he asked if she could lie down already. The girl hesitated, asking if they had to sleep together tonight. Raka sat up, asking what the problem was this time. The girl asked if he could give her 2 days. She hoped that this time would be enough for Teradus. Maya added that in 2 days she would sleep with him, as she had promised. Raka was getting angry and asked if Maya knew that this was a breach of contract. She said she knew, but she hadn't been paid yet anyway. The rule in the contract is that if Party B breaches the agreement, it must compensate Party A in multiples of 3 times the amount paid. Maya went to the door. Raka called out to her. He noticed that she was like a creeper, always wanting to run away somewhere. He asked if he needed her right now. He would still ask to give her 2 days. Raka was pressing Maya against the door. He looked very tired up close. She was worried about how long it had been since he had slept normally. The man demanded an answer. Maya replied that everything was right. She insisted on her own. He walked away sadly. Raka could not understand why she was hesitating. And then he grabbed Maya's hand by force, and she could not pull her hand away. And suddenly Raka became soft, covered in a blush, and he was glad to see Maya as never before. The girl pushed the man away sharply. Raka grabbed his head, saying that this was madness. Even such a slight contact was driving him crazy. Maya asked if he knew about it. The man sat on the bed, answering that yes, he knew. The more touching, the harder it is to control your mind. But he supposed they could at least hold hands. Raka allowed Maya to go back to his place. She hesitated, and he suggested that she hurry before he changed his mind. Maya wasn't feeling too well. She wondered if it was because she hadn't stayed the night with Raka. She wondered why it had to be her. So, Raka, like Emperor Kines, cannot sleep without the shakir flower. If Maya had known that everything would turn out this way, she would have read the book more carefully, because she missed what was connected with Raka. The Duke lay in bed, thinking about what had happened. He couldn't believe that all this had happened in a second, after he had simply touched his palm. But he realized something for himself. The emotion he feels towards Maya is desire. He didn't feel it at first, but it seemed that Raka had lost his mind because he couldn't sleep properly. The Duke pressed his palms to his face in frustration. There was a knock at the door. The man was surprised that Maya had returned. Aisha entered the room. Rubbing her eyes, she said that she could not sleep and that her head was splitting. Raka asked if Delcane was sleeping. The girl said that she was the only one who couldn't sleep. She went to her brother and hugged him. He asked if she had tried anything to sleep. Aisha replied quite seriously that of course she had counted to 100 sheep. Raka stroked his sister's head. He thought it was because she used black magic. That's why he was against Aisha learning and using black magic. The use of black magic was arranged in such a way that as the body weakened, black magic began to grow, which consequently led to increased anxiety and fear. Raka was very worried about his younger sister and asked her not to use black magic anymore. Aisha made it clear that she would think about it, and the man called her stubborn. He did not want either of the twins to be unhappy, but he could not stop the Duke and Duchess's harsh methods of upbringing. They believed that no one should see any weakness in Antheus. Black magic ran in their family. The Duke and Duchess told the children to kill what was most dear to them, because the ability to wield black magic was not without pain. So, as soon as Raka came of age, he used forbidden black magic to drive out the Duke and Duchess. Aisha hugged her older brother tightly, and he mentally blamed himself for the fact that if he had known earlier about the disadvantages of black magic, he would not have made these children suffer. The girl looked at Rak and asked him why he was so serious now, and whether it was because Aisha looked like him. The man smiled back and said that the girl was as stubborn as anyone. Aisha raised her head and said that Sharom always told her that she was as stubborn as the Duke. Raka was skeptical of what Sharom was saying about the girl, but she continued to insist that he was constantly reproaching her for this. At this point, Raka suggested that they put all jokes aside and put Aisha to bed. She agreed and happily climbed under the covers and began to close her eyes, as her brother had told her to do. Aisha felt that her head had suddenly stopped hurting, although it usually continued to do so until the morning. Raka suggested that the girl quickly fall asleep before the headache returned. There was a pleasant smell in Rak's room, which Aisha smelled and told her brother that she had smelled this pleasant, relaxing aroma somewhere before. The man was surprised by this and did not know how to explain it. The girl suddenly jumped up and attacked her brother with questions. She accused Rak of sleeping with Maya the night before. The next morning came. Maya got up early. She felt great. The girl sat in a chair and enjoyed her breakfast. For her, nothing could compare to a morning cup of tea. The maid came into the girl's room. She reported with alarm that Miss Aisha had disappeared somewhere. Maya was so shocked by this news that she even spat out her tea. Wiping her face with her hand, Maya asked the maid to explain what she had said. The maid explained that she had passed by the girl's room and found it empty. Maya couldn't believe that something like this could happen on her first day as a nanny. She was afraid that the Duke would find out. The maid said that she hadn't reported anything to him about it. The maid was also worried about the Duke's reaction. She told the girl that Miss Aisha always disappeared on the day of the etiquette lesson. It seemed that everything was much more serious than Maya thought. The maid looked very scared, because they had never been able to find the girl before. Because of this, the previous nanny had a very hard time. Maya smiled and tried to calm the maid down. The girl realized that Aisha liked to declare war from the very morning. Going out onto the balcony, Maya started looking for Delcane. The maid said that the boy was also looking for Aisha. Then the girl, hearing this, also decided to go looking for the girl. In the yard, Maya saw Delcane burying a squirrel-like animal. The girl realized that now was not the time to distract him. Aisha was running through the corridors of the castle. The maid tried to call her, but the girl passed by. She was heading straight for Maya. Aisha saw the girl and asked her directly if she had slept with her brother. Maya was very taken aback by the girl's question and did not immediately understand what was being discussed. The girl responded by saying that she had not slept with him. Aisha demanded that Maya tell her the truth. The girl tried to convince her that she really had not slept with Raka. Aisha pointed her finger at the maid and demanded to know the reason for her embarrassment. The girl was very angry with the nanny. She did not expect that Maya could do this to her and accused the girl of daring to spend the night with her brother before she spent the night with her. Maya explained to Aisha that Rita was embarrassed for another reason, but the girl thought that she was being taken for a fool because the maid was embarrassed because she knew that Maya had slept with Raka. Considering this situation a misunderstanding, the nanny offered to spend the night with Asha, if the Duke was not against it. The girl immediately agreed and promised to make sure that the Duke gave permission. The maid immediately played along with Aisha. She told Maya that looking at Miss Aisha, she would have no choice but to trust her. At that moment, the girl raised her head proudly. Maya agreed with the maid and added that she could not help but believe her. The maid showed the nanny a gesture demanding that she show the girl the utmost sincerity of the girl's feelings. The door to their room swung open and Shirom appeared on the threshold. He wanted to know what Miss Aisha was still doing here. The man told the girl that an etiquette lesson would soon begin, if he had not mistaken it. Aisha arrogantly answered him that he had made a mistake. Shirom threatened to tell the Duke about it. The girl called Shirom a bore. The man was offended by her words and asked her not to make fun of him, and in response, he again heard the word bore. Aisha herself left the room, slamming the door. Maya stood there and thought that the girl was a real hooligan and behaved like that not only with her. The nanny expressed her sympathy and understanding to the man. He thanked Maya and remembered that he had completely forgotten to introduce himself because of Miss Aisha. The man introduced himself as Shirom Iragi, Duke Einthia's assistant. After the man finished speaking, Maya began to burst out laughing from the inside because Aisha had come up with a nickname for him so easily. Shirom explained to the girl that when the young master and miss were in class, she could either take a rest or go with them. He also asked Maya to make sure that the children did not miss classes. He told the girl that she would have to make sure that nothing happened to the children. Shirom was not sure that he himself asked her to do this. The man also added that judging by the fact that Miss was reaching out to the nanny, the girl should succeed. Maya thanked him for his words of support, although she was not sure that she would succeed. Shirom then suggested that she go and see the young master and Miss's rooms. The man took her around the palace and explained that the children lived in the western annex. He also showed her the dining room. The girl noticed that it was the same direction as the Duke's room. Shirom confirmed her guess and said that the young master and Miss's room was right down the hall. Maya tried to remember the way to their rooms, and Shirom led her further and told her that the main building was intended primarily for holding large business meetings or receiving guests. Shirom led the girl to the children's room. Maya thanked the man for this, but in response, he apologized for not showing her the room earlier. The girl noted that he knew how to speak beautifully. Smiling sweetly, Maya thought that she was glad to see such a kind person in a long time. The more she looked at him, the more he seemed good and right to her. At that moment, the doors of the room opened, and a woman in a green dress quickly came out straight towards them. Seeing Shirom and Maya, she hurried to find out who it was. The nanny and the Duke's assistant stood there with their mouths open in surprise. The woman was outraged by their appearance and wanted to know who had decided to unceremoniously block her path. Shirom noticed that the lesson was already over. After that, he introduced the new nanny to Countess Tights. The woman looked at the girl indifferently without greeting her. Maya bowed to the woman and politely said it was nice to meet her. Countess Tights walked past them further down the corridor and only responded dismissively that she had heard the girl. The woman expressed her dissatisfaction with the new nanny's manners and was rude to her, telling the girl that by looking at her, anyone could tell that she was a slave or a savage. The girl was very surprised by Countess Tights' behavior and did not want to be treated like that. She decided to ignore the woman in response and just smile sweetly. Shirom stood up for Maya. He explained to the Countess that she had misunderstood everything and that the nanny was not a slave. Countess Tights smirked and continued to stand her ground. The woman was indignant and asked Sharam to explain to her where the nanny was from. The man hesitated and could not answer such a question. Maya knew that Sharam would not be able to answer her, because Raka was the only one who knew who she was. The Countess began to tell how she had heard that a girl had recently been bought from the slave market. The man tried to convince Countess Tights that the girl had definitely not come to them from the market. The woman did not believe him and wanted to know the reason why the nanny's origin was being hidden. She could not understand the reason why the girl had agreed to become a nanny. Realizing that things can't go on like this, Maya intends to send the Countess home as soon as possible. The girl kindly hints to her that the Countess is in a hurry and wants to see her next time. Countess Tights expressed doubt as to whether there would be a next time. She confessed to the girl that she would be very sorry that they would never see each other again. After her words, the Countess said that it was a joke. The girl could not resist and laughed. She told the woman that it was funny to watch her puzzle over the girl's origin. Maya explained to Countess Tights that she was also joking, because she thought the Countess liked jokes, but it seemed that she was wrong about that. The woman became terribly angry at the girl after hearing this. The Countess raised her hand to hit the girl. The children came out of the room and saw everything that was happening. They were outraged by the behavior of Countess Tights and wanted to know what was going on here. Aisha pointed her finger at the woman and accused her of wanting to hit the nanny. The Countess, seeing the children, immediately came to her senses and began to joke and deny her intention to hit Maya. Countess Tights put her arm around the nanny and grinned. She justified herself by saying that she simply wanted to say hello and wish the girl all the best. The children did not believe the woman. Delcane began to accuse her of hitting Maya on the shoulder, and Aisha repeated it after him. The Countess did not admit what she had done. She did not know what to do. Raka appeared at the end of the corridor. He was walking towards them. He heard what was happening and hurried to find out who hit whom. The children were delighted to see their brother and began waving their hands at him. Delcane shouted to the Duke that his appearance was very opportune. Aisha and Delcane rushed to tell Rock what the woman had done to the nanny. They did not want to leave it unpunished. Hearing their words, the Countess kept telling the Duke that there had been a misunderstanding. The woman pretended to be nice and greeted the Duke. She apologized to Rock for all the noise and said that she had never laid a finger on anyone in her life. From her words, it seemed like the twins were lying. The Countess began to tell them that the children were late for class today, and she scolded them for it, and now they were taking revenge on her. Aisha and Delcane were furious at such a brazen lie and asked their brother not to believe her. Maya saw how the children wanted to stand up for her and took all the damage on themselves. She realized that she could not just watch it. The girl stood up for the children and admitted that Countess Tights had tried to hit her. Maya told how they accidentally bumped into each other and the woman rashly called her a slave. The woman began to defend herself and pretend that she had never done such a thing. The nanny asked Sharam to confirm her words. Sharam put his hand on his heart and confirmed that what Maya and the twins had said was true. The Countess tried to justify herself one last time, but Raka told her to stop. After understanding the situation, Duke Raka sided with the twins. Delcane smiled and suggested that his elder brother kill Countess Tights. The man smiled back and asked if there was a reason to kill her. The children replied that the woman had insulted her daughter-in-law and accused them of lying. Raka touched his chin and stated that since the Countess's actions were directed at members of the Ainthia family, then she had encroached on the Duke himself and should be punished. Aisha happily suggested that they grind the woman into dust. She believed that then they would no longer have to go to class. Maya thought that Raka and the children were really going to kill the Countess and rushed towards the Duke. She grabbed his hands with hers and tried to stop him. Holding on to the Duke, the girl caught herself thinking that she hadn't even noticed how she had touched him. Maya was a little scared and expected him to change now, but she had nowhere to retreat. Maya was afraid to imagine how far Raka could go. The girl gathered her courage and asked the Duke not to kill Countess Tights. Raka looked at the nanny in surprise and asked the reason for her request. Maya explained that she had no desire to watch a man being turned into powder before her eyes. The man suggested turning the Countess into dust or even making her dissolve. The nanny explained that these methods were even worse. His next option was to blow up Countess Tights, but Maya again begged the Duke not to do it. Maya thought that Raka could easily write a book on 100 ways to kill a man. Raka confessed to the girl that he could not allow anyone to touch his person. He especially could not allow it if that person was Maya. The girl looked at him, and it seemed to her that the more she touched him, the stronger his reaction was. Maya warned the Duke that he could face consequences. The man tried to calm the girl down, but she insisted that she couldn't stop worrying, and she asked him not to do anything that would make him feel worse. Hearing the girl's words, Raka realized that she was worried about her well-being. Maya confirmed his guess, and then he touched her face and called her noble and good-natured. The Duke admitted that he did not immediately understand the reason for her zeal to protect the Countess from death, and asked to allow him to verify that the girl did this because she was worried about him. Raka smiled kindly at the girl and declared that he would not kill the Countess. Maya asked him to promise her to keep his word. The girl let go of the Duke's hands. She was curious to know what his reaction would be now. A pleasant light emanated from Rak. He examined his hand and tried to understand his feelings. Delcane called his sister-in-law. He wanted to know if she had finished her conversation with his older brother. Maya turned around and saw the boy holding Aisha's mouth with his hands. Now it was clear why the girl was silent. Aisha wanted to kill the Countess, but Raka was against it and invited everyone to eat. The girl said that they would eat and then kill the woman. Having stopped arguing, they went to the dining hall. There was a large variety of delicious food on the table. Maya was very excited about such an abundance of food. Raka noticed that the girl's mouth was open and reprimanded her. She came to her senses because she had not noticed how drool had started to flow and wiped her mouth with her sleeve. Delcane saw that Aisha was again eating only meat, although she had previously eaten fried potatoes that Maya had prepared, and told the girl about it. Aisha said that the potatoes Maya cooked had a special taste, but she generally thought that all vegetables tasted the same. After listening to his sister, Delcane handed her a plate of potatoes. The boy offered Aisha to try the dish and explained that it was made from the same ingredients that his daughter-in-law had used when preparing it last time. After trying a piece, the girl expressed her dissatisfaction with the dish and spat it back into the plate with great disgust. Maya suggested that she use a napkin if she decided to do it again. After all, watching people spit into their plates might not please others. Aisha got angry and got up from her chair. The girl concluded that Maya didn't like her anymore. She wanted to know if the nanny had changed her mind about spending the night with her and demanded that Maya answer this. Hearing Aisha and Maya's conversation, Duke Raka was very surprised and asked to explain what was going on. He did not know that the girl and her nanny had planned to spend the night together. Aisha told her elder brother that she and the nanny were going to spend the night together. Raka looked at Maya and asked her to confirm what her younger sister had said. Maya decided that it would be right to side with Aisha in order to settle things. The girl made a guilty look and admitted that she had accidentally planned to spend the night with the girl. The nanny said that it was Aisha who wanted to have a sleepover. The girl confirmed her words and told her older brother that from that day on she would sleep with Maya. Raka tried to find out from the girl what Aisha meant by wanting to sleep with Maya from that day on. Maya panicked and started making gestures that she would explain it later. The girl's gestures seemed to the Duke to be a manifestation of some kind of illness, and he asked the nanny about her health. The Duke rang the bell and called the maid. He asked the maid to bring Maya some medicine for her eye twitching. The nanny was fine and tried to persuade Rak to stop. The girl jumped up from her chair and said that there was nothing wrong with her eyes and she had just winked at the Duke. Raka did not believe Maya and decided that she had a serious problem. After these words were spoken, the girl realized that the children had been looking at her all this time. She touched her hair and hesitated a little. Maya sat down on a chair and admitted that her eyes were indeed twitching due to fatigue. Raka was glad that he was right. Delcane was concerned about the girl's condition. He asked her about her well-being with concern. The girl told the boy that she was a little tired and was going to go and rest for a while after she ate. Aisha finished her piece and declared that she could not eat anymore. She picked up a napkin and wiped her mouth with it, expecting to be noticed and praised. Maya saw the girl's actions and was very surprised. Aisha explained her behavior by saying that she did not want to cause discomfort to others. The nanny was very happy that the girl grasped everything on the fly. She praised Aisha, noting that there was no other child as smart and good as she. The girl proudly declared that Maya had finally understood her value. The nanny suggested that Aisha would soon start eating vegetables, and the girl confirmed her guess and promised to show it. Raka explained to Maya that she would have to take the medicine that the maid would bring anyway. The Duke told the nanny that he would pretend he had not heard that she was going to sleep with Aisha. The girl heard this and was furious. Maya was upset by Raki's ban. Aisha found her brother's demand outrageous and demanded that he not interfere in her relationship with the nanny. Raka tried to explain to the girl that this was not right, but in response, she accused him of having already slept with Maya. The Duke's face turned red because he was not prepared for Aisha to find out. The girl said that since her older brother had not told her anything, she herself went and found out everything. Not giving in to the persuasion of his younger sister, Raka declared that the nanny should sleep only with him, because that was her duty, and others were not allowed to do this. Raka demanded that the girl learn to distinguish between public and private life. Aisha was offended by her brother, and her eyes began to fill with tears. Maya sat at the table and watched silently, thinking that the situation had only gotten worse. The Duke rose from the table and silently went about his business. Maya wanted to know where he was going and called the man. The man turned around to find out what was going on and explained to the girl that he was heading to his office on business. Maya caught up with him and suggested that the Duke console Aisha. Raka explained his actions by saying that there was a limit to the girl's hysterics. The nanny believed that he was being too cruel. Raka confessed to the girl that he could not sleep last night without Maya. He told her that after the day he was unconscious, he could not sleep because of Aisha. The Aintai family knew how to use black magic, but in exchange for this power, when people closed their eyes, they heard the voices of the dead. In the Empire, people tried to avoid black magic because it contained forbidden spells. It was worth using this magic only once, as a person began to hear the dead. Maya began to suspect that Raka was using forbidden magic, and that was why he was looking for the shakir flower. The Duke noted that Maya could not refuse Aisha a place to stay overnight, unlike him. Raka was not sure that he could hold out for 2 more days. It became clear to the girl that this was all because Raka had not gotten enough sleep, and she assumed that his reaction depended on how close the contact with her would be. Maya politely asked the Duke about his plans to be busy in the near future, and then suggested trying to put him to bed. The man suspected a trick and wanted to know the reason for such a proposal. Maya hinted to him that the children had no classes today, and Raka just couldn't sleep. The girl suggested that they would succeed if she didn't get too close to the Duke. The nanny confessed to the Duke that she felt guilty about leaving yesterday, so she decided to ask Rak's permission to help him now. The Duke quickly turned and walked straight down the corridor. Maya suggested that he come at night if he did not want it now, but in response she heard Rocky suggesting that he go after him now. He moved so quickly that the girl did not hurry after him and asked to go more slowly. The Duke, on the contrary, hurried Maya and explained his haste by great fatigue. Rocky's room was very dark because of the thick curtains, which surprised the girl. She asked if the man always drew the curtains. Rocky replied that he slept better that way. The girl suggested that the darkness could oppress the man. The Duke began to take off his outer clothing and explained to Maya that the darkness could not oppress him because the light was unpleasant to him. The girl believed that usually a man could sleep only because of the shakir flower. Raka hung up his clothes and said that he could not afford it every day because the flower was not so easy to get. The Duke admitted that he used the shakir flower once every 2 or 3 days. The girl found this fact incredible. Maya could not even imagine how it lasted all this time. Thinking about Rocky's words, she thought that in the novel, the Duke could do all the crazy things because he could not sleep properly. The man sat on the bed and urged Maya to hurry. He said that if someone saw them together, that person would think that the Duke was talking to the curtains. The girl approached the chair and asked permission to sit down instead of lying down on the bed. Raka was surprised and asked the girl if she could sleep sitting up. Maya did not immediately understand the Duke's hint, and after a little hesitation, replied that she certainly was not going to sleep sitting. Raka was ready to go to bed, but he could not persuade the girl to lie down on the bed next to him. He had to invite her to lie down on the bed several times. The girl had no plans to lie down together. She just wanted to help him fall asleep. Maya justified herself by saying that she was not going to sleep and it was convenient for her. She reassured the Duke, telling him that she would just sit on the chair. The man was surprised and reproached the girl for intending to look at him while he was sleeping. Maya smiled back and explained to the Duke that she had slept well earlier. Raka suggested that it would be better to call her at night in the future. The Duke was a little indignant that he would have to sleep knowing that someone was looking at him. Maya had no choice but to resign herself to the fact that she would have to lie in the same bed with him, even though she was only there to put the Duke to bed and not to sleep with him. The girl suddenly realized that if Raka fell asleep now, he would not call her in the evening. Coming closer to the curtains, Maya expressed her consent to sleep together. The Duke found it hard to believe, since the girl practically hid behind the curtains. Maya was very excited and felt she needed to pull herself together. She opened the curtains and explained to the man that she just wanted some fresh air in the room. The room was filled with bright light, and Duke Raka had to cover his eyes with his hand to adjust. The Duke agreed to let some light into the room, but then he wanted Maya to go to bed anyway. The man got up and went into the next room to change. The girl sat down on the bed and thought that when Raka returned, she would need to somehow, naturally, close the window. A strange sound was coming from the room where the man was changing clothes, which Maya heard. The girl became curious and decided to turn around. Maya saw the Duke's bare, muscular back. She realized that it was the sound of clothes being unbuttoned. Blushing with shame, the girl tried to cover her face with her hands. Maya was stunned by what she saw and tried to convince herself that she had not seen anything. The girl looked at the man's back, and when Raka turned around, Maya explained her gaze by saying that she was looking at the big, strong butterfly that his back looked like. The nanny hesitated and confirmed once again that she had seen a butterfly near the window. Then she decided to change the subject and complimented him on his good physical condition. Once again, Maya glanced at the Duke. He told her about how he practiced fencing every afternoon to strengthen his body. The man put on his robe and went out to the girl. Maya kept looking at him, and then Raka asked her how much longer she was going to stare. The Duke leaned towards the girl and declared that he would not stop her from looking at herself, but she must take full responsibility for it. Covering her cheeks, which were red from embarrassment, with her hands, the girl became indignant and justified herself by saying that she didn't want to look anywhere at all. Maya was delighted by the Duke's back. It was the most beautiful relief of strong muscles, resembling a butterfly, that the girl had ever seen. The girl went to the window and opened it slightly. Maya said that she was hot and wanted to cool down a bit. The girl could never admit that she was fascinated by the muscles on Rocky's back. After a while, the Duke urged Maya to go to bed, in case she had breathed enough air. Maya was still not ready to go to bed and told him about it. The girl was still embarrassed and needed time to get ready, so she decided to go out to the balcony. It was a nice, clear day outside. The girl walked up to the railing and began to enjoy the fresh air and the sun's rays. Raka went out to the balcony with Maya. He found it amazing that with her, he could just close his eyes and relax, and told the girl about it. The man confessed to her that for a long time he had not been able to allow himself to rest peacefully and not think about how to fall asleep. The girl stood and listened to him and did not know how to answer, because she had never seen Raku like this before. Then he added that his words should not be given any importance and again hurried the girl. Maya thought the main thing was that she had an ability that could help Rocky. She remembered how Aisha had told her that she felt normal only when Maya touched her fingers. Maybe it could work with the Duke, too. She entered the room and offered the man to hold her. Raka suggested that he could hold her hand, but Maya only allowed him to touch her little finger. The girl's proposal surprised the man very much. Maya began to justify herself and asked him not to think of her as if she had gone crazy. She thought it would be a good idea to try to do so. After hearing the girl's excuse, Raka smiled and agreed to her proposal without giving it any importance. Maya felt that he did not take her words seriously. The girl did not understand what the Duke was talking about. Raka put his hand forward and explained that Maya had very small hands compared to him. The girl put her palm forward and they could compare their palms. Now Maya could see the difference and realized that it would be uncomfortable for him to hold her little finger. She asked Rak to lie down and sat down next to him on the edge of the bed. The man was a little surprised, but obediently fulfilled her request. The man placed his hand on the sheet, and Maya touched the tip of her little finger to his middle and ring fingers. The room around them began to fill with a barely noticeable golden glow. The girl smiled kindly at the Duke and asked how he felt. Raka lay on the bed and slowly relaxed. He began to feel a pleasant drowsiness and the headaches leaving him. The girl asked him to close his eyes and then describe his feelings. Maya saw how comfortable the Duke felt at that moment. Raka described his feelings as unusually pleasant and light. He was glad that he could just lie there peacefully with his eyes closed in the sun. Turning his head, he looked at Maya and said that it was all thanks to her. The man admitted that he could not feel so good if it were not for her. Maya looked at him and was surprised that the Duke could show such sincere emotions. She promised Rocky to help him feel this feeling in future. The man was confused by what Maya had said. The girl hesitated and did not know how to explain it, because she was intoxicated by the atmosphere and therefore said it impulsively. She needed to come up with some logical explanation for her words, but nothing good came to mind. And then she remembered the contract. Raka was still wary and waited for clarification. Maya explained that she meant that she had to faithfully fulfill the rules of the contract. The girl went to the window and started to draw the curtains. She tried to convince him to pull himself together and not interfere in the affairs of the main characters, because it never ended well. On contact, the Duke looked like a gentle lamb, but in reality, he was the embodiment of evil. He was the kind of evil that would not even blink an eye when killing someone. The main characters of the novel were deliberately given a beautiful appearance, but one could not give in to this. Maya closed the curtains completely, and the room became dark. She decided that she should not feel anything towards Rocky. The next day came. The girl came to the Duke's room again to put him to bed, and this time she dared to lie down in his bed. Maya asked Rocky about the sensations he had experienced last time and suggested that he do the same today. The man lay next to Maya in the dark room on the same bed. He closed his eyes and tried to relax again to fall asleep. Maya lay quietly next to him, and all this time she was staring at the Duke. Raka sensed this and reprimanded the girl. They started arguing among themselves. The girl did not understand how Raka could feel her gaze and justified herself by saying that she was just about to close her eyes. The Duke smiled and suggested that Maya repeat the same thing, only with her eyes closed, so that it would look more realistic. After his words, the girl quickly closed her eyes. After some time, Raka fell asleep, and Maya wondered how long it would take to wake him up. She herself felt slightly tired and gradually began to fall asleep. The girl herself did not notice how she fell asleep, but after some time she was awakened by the voice of the Duke, who called her by name. Maya opened her eyes and assumed that it was still a dream. Raka was hovering right above the girl and looking at her. The whole room was shrouded in a dark aura of black magic. The man was tugging the girl's shoulder with one hand to wake her up faster. Maya assumed that when she was tossing and turning in her sleep, she had accidentally touched Rocky, but that was not right. She asked the Duke to move away from her. The man looked at the girl passionately and told her to call him by his name. The Duke's eyes filled with an aura of dark magic, and the girl noticed it. The girl asked Raku to move away again, but the man did not want to do so. Then Maya warned him that he might regret what had happened. She tried to persuade Raku to stop because he was not himself now and could not control the consequences. The man considered it unimportant and said that he would not regret it either now or later. Maya tried to explain to the Duke that she knew more about the Duke's future than he did and that he should not underestimate it. Raka did not believe it and leaned closer to the girl. The man almost touched Maya's face. Raka confessed to the girl that he passionately desired her at that moment, and it was so strong that he was ready to die. The girl thought that if the Duke was going to die, then let him do it himself. She tried to push him away with her hands, but it did not lead to the desired result. It seemed that nothing could stop Raka. The girl began to threaten the Duke, but this only fueled his interest. Maya could not understand why he had such an overreaction to her words. In order to protect herself from the Duke's advances, the girl grabbed his head. She was worried about what he might do to her next. Raka took the girl's hand firmly and pulled it away from his face. Now she could not move it. He reassured the girl that his behavior was not delirious due to fever. Maya asked the Duke to let go of her wrist and then to move away from her altogether. Raka freed the girl's hand and called the girl's desire to let go of her stupid. The Duke thought that the girl might be uncomfortable and offered to change her pillow. Maya thought that this might be a good chance to free herself and asked Rak to show her the pillows. In an instant, she grabbed one of the pillows and swung it with all her might. The girl hit the man and asked for forgiveness for it. She covered the Duke's face with a pillow, hoping that this would help avoid his advances. Raka did not expect this from Maya and did not have time to react. Having come to his senses, the man removed the pillow from his face. He accused the girl of trying to make him lose consciousness. The girl began to apologize for her actions. The man began to get out of bed and asked her not to apologize, but to do the same next time something similar happens. Maya listened to the Duke's proposal with surprise. Raka explained that at the moment this was the only way he could come to his senses, and next time he would also allow himself to be deceived so that the girl could act. With a sigh of relief, Maya agreed to do the same when required. She then asked Rak what time it was. The Duke saw on his pocket watch that it was already 7 o'clock in the evening and told the girl about it. Maya noticed that she had overslept more than she thought and asked Rak if he would stay in the room. The man had a lot of things to do, but he told Maya that he could do them tomorrow, and then offered to have dinner with her. The girl politely declined and was going to leave with his permission. Before she could leave the room, the girl noticed that the Duke was starting to feel unwell. The man complained to the girl that he was starting to feel dizzy. Raka lay down on the bed again and began to hint that he had not slept well. The Duke suggested that the girl lie down on the bed again and help him sleep well. Maya thought that the man had had enough sleep and refused him. Raka had a different opinion and claimed that he did not sleep every day and therefore needed more sleep. The man tried to persuade the girl to stay, because the sun had already set and it was now evening. The Duke hinted to the girl that they had to follow the contract. The girl understood that she had no choice. Raka asked Maya not to worry anymore and just go to bed. He promised not to do anything bad to her anymore. Morning came. Maya woke up and found herself alone in the room. She noticed that the night had passed peacefully, and indeed nothing had happened. The maid entered the room and headed towards Maya. Rita was holding a tray of cookies, which she immediately offered to the girl. Maya tried one cookie and liked it. The girl asked the maid what the treat was called. The maid replied that it was called love cookies. The cookies were very tasty and sweet. The maid explained to Maya that they were like that because they were love cookies for the nanny. The girl asked the maid if it was the Duke who asked her to give the cookies to her. The maid confirmed her guess and considered this act very sweet and romantic. Rita explained that since Raka had been living with the twins all this time, and now he had asked to make these cookies for the nanny, they could only be love cookies. Maya was very surprised by this. Maya asked to tell the true name of these cookies. The maid was surprised and called them chocolate. Now Maya realized that they were actually chocolate cookies made with love. Raka was sitting at the desk in the office working on documents. He called Sharam to him. The assistant noted that the Duke was usually not seen in the afternoon, but now he decided to show up. Raka was working on the paperwork more slowly than usual, and Sharam noticed it. The Duke was filling out a form when he suddenly said Maya's name out loud. The assistant also heard the nanny's name. An aura of black magic appeared over the Duke. Raka did not want to name the nanny and asked Sharam to confirm his words. The servant pretended to have misheard, because the Duke could never think of women. The Duke wanted to know how Sharam knew the nanny's real name. The assistant justified himself by saying that the master himself had recently asked to find out about the girl. Raka questioned Sharam about where the interim report had gone, but the assistant justified himself by saying that the master had not asked about it yet. This greatly infuriated the Duke, but Sharam began reporting to him. Maya was from Liberton. The oracle said that a blue-eyed child born in Liberton would be called a daughter of God. According to the oracle's instructions, she was taken to the temple and raised as a daughter of God. Liberton was a backwater on the outskirts of the Zerdia Empire. It was a place where crime was rampant, and no one would be surprised if a child went missing there. Sharam said that after the girl had entered the temple again, the oracle had descended again. He then took a letter from his jacket pocket and handed it to the Duke. Raka opened the letter and began to read. It said that the daughter of the letter's sender, having awakened her abilities, would restore stability to Zerdia. The Duke realized that the girl hid her identity because the oracle had called her God's daughter. He knew that the emperor's power was unstable, and if this became known to everyone, the emperor's position would weaken. He could lose the support of his subjects. Raka recalled how Maya always wanted to go somewhere, and there was a feeling that her life was under threat. Sharam admitted that he tried to find out the reason for her escape, but there was no clue. The assistant said that he could make friends with the nanny and then find out everything directly from her. Sharam noted that the nanny treated him well. The Duke rose from his chair and rested his hands on the table. He told the servant not to waste time on finding out. Raka declared that he would find out everything himself. After the lesson ended, the door to the corridor opened and Delcane appeared in it. He was glad to see the girl and confessed to her that he missed her. The boy asked his nanny how she had managed to rest. The girl thanked him for his concern and in return asked Delcane if he had been paying attention in history class. Delcane admitted that he listened to the lesson without interest since he already knew all this, but Aisha should have studied harder. Maya encouraged the boy by saying that the knowledge would be useful to him in the future. The nanny learned from the boy that Aisha had not come to class at all today and was very upset about it. Then he told her that yesterday his sister had not even come to dinner. Maya felt guilty for Aisha's bad behavior and wanted to know if the girl was still angry with her. Delcane did not think his sister was angry and assumed that she would soon calm down. The girl was curious to know if the girl had ever quarreled with the Duke before. Delcane assumed that this had not happened before the nanny came to their house. Realizing that Raka and his younger sister were fighting over Maya, she decides to think of a way to calm Aisha down. To do this, the nanny decides to ask the boy about what his sister likes. When asked by the nanny about Aisha's preferences, Delcane thought for a moment and named meat. There was something else, but the boy could only tell about it if Maya promised to fulfill his wish. The girl was excited by Delcane's offer. She couldn't even imagine what the boy could demand from her, but she still took the risk of agreeing to it. Smiling suspiciously, Delcane suggested that he tell the girl about his desire some other time. Maya began to doubt the boy's innocence a little. Aisha's preference came as a surprise to the nanny. Delcane confessed to Maya that the girl loved all the flowers. The girl was very surprised and did not immediately believe that such a mischievous girl as Aisha could love flowers. The boy assured Maya of this, and since he was her brother, Maya decided to trust him. The nanny asked Delcane to help her find a flower patch where she could pick a bouquet. The boy readily agreed to show her such a place. Delcane took Maya to a beautiful garden full of various flowers. The girl was delighted with such a wonderful place. The boy explained that Raka had given this garden to Aisha for her birthday. Maya didn't understand how other people could come in here if this was a garden for Aisha, but Delcane explained to her that others could come in, but now his sister was forbidden to do so. The boy told the nanny that although there was no danger, Aisha used black magic, and her older brother punished her by forbidding her to come to that place. They assumed that the girl wanted to get here. Maya sat down among the flowers and wanted to know which one Aisha liked the most. Delcane told the nanny that his sister liked all the flowers here. Having collected a beautiful bouquet of flowers, Maya decided to show it to Delcane. She needed to know his opinion before showing the bouquet to Aisha. A few moments later, the girl found herself alone in the garden. Maya was surprised by the boy's disappearance because he was not the type to leave without saying a word. Fearing for Delcane's life, she began to look for him. The girl called his name several times, but no one answered. Maya began to blame herself for her inattention and for losing him. Maya rushed to hug Delcane. She was incredibly happy to see him. The nanny hugged the boy so tightly that for a few moments he couldn't breathe. Tears ran down Maya's cheeks, and she admitted that she was very scared that nothing would happen to the boy. Delcane apologized for trying to scare her a little. Having calmed down a little, the girl asked the boy where he had been all this time. In response, Delcane handed Maya a beautiful wreath of flowers. The boy held a wreath he had made himself. His hands were all scratched because of it, but he was happy that he had tried to make such a gift for Maya. Maya liked the wreath Delcane made and thought it was very sweet of him. She thought his soul was much more beautiful than the wreath. Delcane was pleased that the girl liked his gift and asked Maya to bend over a little so that he could put it on her head. The wreath was slightly larger than her head and had slipped onto Maya's shoulders. Delcane hadn't intended for this to happen, and it made him feel awkward. To cheer the boy up, Maya winked at him and said that his wreath now looked like a beautiful flower necklace, and it was beautiful because Delcane had made it. Maya tried to remember a passage from the novel. She did not understand how Delcane could get into trouble, and imagined him with a sword standing over Reina's body. The nanny could not believe that someone like him could mock the main character. She became interested in how it all ended. Maya was thinking about how she had completely forgotten the plot about Ainthia. Delcane noticed his daughter-in-law's puzzlement. She explained her thoughtfulness by saying that she wanted to make a wreath for him and Aisha. Maya and Delcane came to Aisha's room with flowers and knocked on the door. The nanny knocked on the door and told the girl that she had brought a gift for her. The girl told Aisha in a seductive voice that she had brought a bouquet and offered to take it with her. Otherwise, Maya hinted that she would leave and take it with her. Aisha was interested in Maya and Delcane's offer, and after a few moments opened the door. The girl slowly looked out to look at the flowers. Maya gave the flowers to the girl and waited for her reaction. The girl was very worried that Aisha would not get angry and very kindly offered to look at the bouquet. Tears appeared in Aisha's eyes. The girl was surprised that the nanny knew about the girl's love for flowers. She apologized to Maya for ignoring her. The nanny took out the wreath and handed it to Aisha. The girl admitted that she had made it with Delcane. The boy and Maya were very pleased with their gifts. They put the wreath on the girl and Maya complimented her. The girl thought the wreath was a very beautiful decoration that suited Aisha. The girl invited the Unny and her brother to her room. Then she said that she hoped that they would come to comfort her, but no one cared. Maya tried to calm the girl down. The girl suggested that Aisha might have been sad in the room herself, and she confirmed that she felt as if she was locked in there. Hearing Aisha's words about being locked up, Maya became excited. She remembered how there was something similar in the novel. The novel Maya read told of how the Ainthia twins were forever locked in a tower as punishment for pursuing Reina. The girl did not attach any importance to this. She thought that whoever committed the crime should be punished for it. She wanted to know the truth about whether the twins really abused Reina. Maya looked at the children and couldn't believe that they could do something like that. Maybe something could happen in the future, but not now. The children were afraid for the girl's well-being. She sat opposite, motionless, completely immersed in her thoughts, and it seemed to them that Maya was not feeling well. Having come to her senses, Maya began to calm the twins. She began to smile pleasantly and make hand gestures that she was okay. Then Maya suggested that all three of them go get something to eat. The children agreed to have lunch. Aisha began to demand from Delcaine that Maya sit next to her. The boy called her behavior childish because Maya could have sat in the middle and called his sister an idiot. The girl considered it a good sign that the children had started to quarrel, but she reprimanded them not to do so. Aisha pointed at her brother and accused him of being the first to call her an idiot. Maya said that Delcaine should have apologized first this time. She argued that Aisha was already in a bad mood. The boy felt unfairly treated. Delcaine agreed with Maya and apologized to his sister. Aisha reluctantly accepted his apology, but stated that she was doing it for the unnies. Maya praised the children for this. The girl was in a good mood about what was happening and promised to give the twins something as a sign of praise. Hearing the girl's offer, the children froze in surprise and looked at Maya carefully. They were very interested in what she was going to give them. The twins began to question Maya. The girl thought for a moment that the children might not need her praise at all, because she had a feeling that they did not know what it was. Maya promised to give the children stamps of praise for every good deed. For every 10 stamps collected, she would grant them any wish they had. Delcaine and Aisha were thrilled with the offer. They were initially skeptical, but Maya assured them that she could do anything they wanted. All three settled down in one of the rooms. Delcaine and Maya sat down on the chairs, and Aisha took the mirror and looked at herself in it with satisfaction. The nanny thought that the girl liked the wreath. Aisha turned to her brother and showed off her gift. The girl wanted to know Delcaine's opinion on her appearance. The boy sat with his hands behind his head, and he explained to his sister that he had already complimented her, but Aisha demanded to hear it from him again. Delcaine thought that the wreath was so beautiful because it was made by his daughter-in-law. Maya was pleased to hear good words from the children about her gifts. The girl decided that she would need to give the twins something more often in the future. There was a knock on the door of the room, and Maya looked out to check. The maid was standing at the entrance. Seeing the girl, she was a little surprised that the nanny was still with the children. Rita said that the Duke wanted to have dinner with the children and the nanny. Maya liked Rocky's suggestion, because when they eat together, she can eat a lot of tasty things. But on the other hand, the girl did not want to see them quarreling again. The maid added that Mr. Rocca had said that they would definitely eat together from now on. Rita was very excited by the Duke's display of affection for the nanny. Maya thought that Aisha would eat with Rocca again despite their recent fight. The maid asked the nanny to convey her words to the twins. The girl returned to the room and began to relay the maid's words about today's dinner. But Aisha interrupted her with a question about whether Maya would be present with them. Aisha heard a positive answer from her nanny and was immediately delighted. The girl made a joyful gesture with her hands and admitted that today was the best day of her life. Maya saw the girl in a good mood and confessed to her that the Duke would also be at this dinner. Aisha did not like this, and she lay down on the floor and began to scream, stamp her feet, and wave her arms. The nanny tried to calm the girl down and explained to her that she couldn't eat separately all the time. Aisha was indignant and said that she would stop eating altogether. Persuasion had no effect on Aisha. Maya suggested going together, and then the girl could decide what to do next. Aisha was angry and asked to tell the Duke that she did not want to have dinner with him. The girl resigned herself to the fact that she would not be able to persuade Aisha and decided to go alone with Delcaine. Aisha angrily insisted that they explain to her brother that she had no intention of eating with him. There was a knock on the door of the room where the Duke was doing business. The man opened the door to check and found the priestess there. Maya seemed very excited about something. She asked Rock to talk together for a while. The Duke suggested that they come into his office and discuss everything there. Maya politely declined, as she did not plan to drag out the conversation for long. Raka listened attentively to the girl, and she told him that Aisha did not want to eat with him. Maya assumed that the girl was still angry with her older brother. He explained Aisha's behavior by saying that she had not yet thought about her behavior. Raka believed that the girl would come when she was hungry. The girl was a little surprised by the Duke's answer. Maya was sure that Aisha was not the type to come here just because she was hungry. She confessed to Rocky that the girl had said a minute ago that she would not eat. After listening carefully to the nanny, Raka realized that Aisha was behaving this way because she was upset. The man became furious and was determined to talk to the girl right away, which scared Maya. The Duke headed to his younger sister's room. Maya thought that it was unacceptable for the man to shout at Aisha again now, and she hurried to stop him. She followed him and grabbed his hand. The girl was a little scared because she was holding Rock by the wrist. She hesitated and tried to explain her action. The aura of dark magic was growing stronger around the Duke. He told Maya to let him go and wait here. The girl expected that he would immediately lose his composure at her touch. It looked like the man was trying to control himself, but it was very difficult for him. The Duke asked Maya to give him some time. She looked at him with a worried look and tried to understand whether the Duke had lost his self-control. The girl called him by name to check it. Raka held on with all his might. He asked Maya not to say his name because he felt it was driving him crazy. The Duke reminded him that at first he used to lose his mind whenever a girl touched him. Maya suggested that it was different now, and Raka agreed, but now he couldn't hold back. The man grabbed the girl's hand and approached her. Raka looked at her with a loving look and called her by name. Maya realized that the man had deceived her because he was already completely out of order. The girl saw Rocky's assistant in the corridor. She decided to turn the Duke's attention to him and told the man that Sharam was idle. Raka was not happy with Sharam's appearance. The assistant decided that the nanny was making fun of him and found it very offensive. Maya tried to justify herself to the servant. She urgently needed to think of a way to get rid of the Duke's touch. Raka ordered Sharam to vacate the office, and the assistant obediently agreed. Realizing that the girl has no other choice but to use her body, she decides to try to step very hard on the Duke's foot. Maya apologizes for stepping on his foot, but the man manages to remove his foot and lets the girl know that she messed something up. The girl looked at Rocky's loving face and decided to use her other leg. She was thinking about how to trip him. Aisha appeared on their way. The girl was very mad at Raku. She thought that the Duke could not come to her because something had happened, but instead she saw him trying to kiss Maya. Aisha moved quickly towards the Duke. She ordered him to leave Maya at once and accused him of being a bad brother. The girl was very excited about what Aisha saw, although on the other hand, she was standing very close to the Duke, and it was logical to think so. The girl grabbed Raku and demanded that he and Maya let go of each other. The nanny promised to give the girl a stamp of praise if she could separate them. Maya began to offer Aisha 2 seals instead of 1. The girl agreed and asked the Ani to keep her promise in the future. Overjoyed that she would be able to earn 2 seals, Aisha began to create a ball of black magic. Maya was afraid of this because the girl was forbidden to use black magic. The girl realized that she needed to separate her hands from the Duke as soon as possible. She tried to quickly pull her hand away to free herself and asked Aisha to stop using magic. After Maya was freed, Aisha was already standing next to her with a piece of paper and happily demanded that Maya put 2 stamps of praise. All 3 entered the office and sat down separately from each other. Maya did not understand why they had not eaten yet, but were sorting out their relationship because Delcane was waiting for them there. Maya suggested that the brother and sister make peace. The Duke believed that if he was the first to start making peace, Aisha would become even more spoiled. The girl was very angry with him and did not want to make peace either. Maya noticed that the only time the Duke spent with the twins was during meals, but it always ended in a fight, and she assumed there must be a way to fix it. The girl knew that the children had no lessons tomorrow and asked the Duke if he would have free time tomorrow. Raka replied that he could free himself a little and wanted to know what it was for. The Duke's answer pleased the girl, and she suggested that they all go on a picnic together tomorrow. Aisha didn't know what a picnic was, and Maya explained to her that it was an outing into nature where people take food with them. There, they admire the scenery and have a good time, and you can see flowers there. The girl wanted to go on a picnic. Rocky didn't care that Aisha was going there because he considered it the most useless thing to do. Then his sister got indignant and decided to go on a picnic without him. Aisha, waving her hands with joy, began to ask Maya to go into nature without the Duke. She told her brother that he had never gone anywhere except for flowers from Shakir, and it was not interesting to be with him. Raka stood up from his chair and said that he could also go on the picnic with them. He admitted his guilt in never taking the twins for nothing. Maya noticed that the atmosphere between them had improved considerably. She was happy that this would be their first picnic together and promised to prepare snacks for him. Aisha asked the Uni to make them some delicious fried potatoes like last time. Raka said he could find out about a place where they could have a picnic. The girl was pleased that they could now sit down to dinner together and use the picnic as an excuse for discussion. The girl asked her brother if he was busy and, without waiting for his answer, grabbed the nanny by the hand and dragged her into the dining room. Slamming the door to the office, Aisha continued to shout at her older brother, who remained inside, about how they had gone to eat without him. Maya became worried that they had not taken the Duke with them. She stopped the girl and wanted to know if it was right for them to leave Rock in such a state. Aisha explained that in any case, the older brother did not eat when he was busy with something, and now he had to be busy choosing a place for a picnic. Maya wondered if that was the only reason. In the evening after dinner, Maya was sitting on her bed in her room. She felt bad after eating because she was very nervous the night before. Raka approached the door of the room. The girl did not expect to see him here and hurried to find out the reason for his appearance. The Duke crossed the threshold of the room and explained his appearance by his desire to talk to the girl, if she would not mind. Maya looked at Rock worriedly. She thought there was some problem. The man was acting a little strange, as if he was trying to find something in the room. The man admitted that he smelled the shakir flower in the room, and it seemed to him that he felt calmer because of it. The girl, hearing this, thought that this was her ability. Raka sat down at the table and began to tell that he had come to discuss something. Maya considered his arrival unnecessary and said that he could have simply called her to him. The Duke admitted that he had intended to do so, but thought it would be dangerous to invite the girl to his place late at night. Then he reminded her of his promise to find a place for a picnic. The man had to find a picnic spot himself, so he did some research. To do this, Raka looked through several books on how people spend picnics. He brought these books with him and said that as a result of his research, he found out that picnics are also held at home, in the yard of one's own house. Raka thought this was a good option, because this way he could work and be at a picnic at the same time. Maya looked at the Duke with a surprised face. She wondered how Raka knew that people go on picnics in their yard. The Duke handed the girl a book and said that he learned about it from it. The nanny took the book from Rocky and wanted to know its title. She was a little indignant at the Duke's suggestion, as she thought it was wrong to have a picnic in her own yard. The man said the book was called Mom, Dad, Let's Go on a Picnic, and explained that there weren't many books, so he relied on that. The girl assumed the Duke had read a fairy tale. The girl looked again at the strange titles of the books that the Duke had brought. She was surprised that Raka had been busy with this nonsense all this time and had not even eaten. The Duke explained that after reading this literature, he realized that the location of the picnic was not so important. The main thing was that they were going to spend time together. Maya realized that Raka had never been to a picnic and could not be trusted to organize such an event. She explained to the man that the picnic was not only a vacation, but also an education. The girl thought that if she had a picnic in the yard, it might look more like a walk, so doing it in the yard would be wrong. She also thought that Aisha would be disappointed because of this. Raka began to call upon dark magic to burn the book. He considered it worthless because it contained information that would only hinder him. Maya tried to stop the Duke. The nanny explained that the book was not meant to give him information. Raka suggested that Maya was related to the author. Maya justified herself by saying that she did not know the author and suggested that they figure it out together. Seemed to be completely confused. He scratched his head and said that now he would have to start all over again. Maya calmed Rock and asked him how well he knew the Zerdia Empire. The man replied that the Duke was obliged to know the territories of the states. The girl asked Rock to name places he knew with beautiful nature or historical landmarks. The man replied that he knew a place where both criteria were combined. The Duke thought about it and suggested that going to his suggested place was a good idea. Maya was glad that they had decided on a picnic spot and suggested that they go to bed. The nanny sat down on the bed and asked where they would sleep today, since her bed was too small for both of them to fit on it. Raka replied that he would sleep in the chair today. The man moved the chair closer to the girl's bed and asked if she would let him hold her hand. Maya lay down on the bed, and the Duke settled himself in the chair so that he could touch her palm. The girl lay and thought about whether everyone would be in a good mood tomorrow. The dangerous forest was a source of black magic, inhabited by all sorts of small evil spirits. So often no one climbed into this dark place. Shiram learned that the Duke, his nanny, and the twins had gone into the dangerous forest. He assumed that this was not a picnic at all, but an exercise to develop courage, and hoped that everything would be all right with them. Once in the forest, the girl was a little upset because she had imagined it differently. Raka explained that he had brought the children and Maya to the exact place he had spoken about earlier. The girl indignantly demanded that the Duke show her historical sites. Raka emphasized that he had brought them to a very ancient place. The Duke pointed to the thicket of the forest and explained that it was here that the black magic of Antia had once originated. The children froze in amazement as they listened to their older brother. The girl mentally asked them for forgiveness, because she also did not know that they would come to such a place. Maya began to justify herself for bringing them here with the Duke, but the children really liked it. Aisha said she didn't know about this place at all, and Delcane remarked on his daughter-in-law's good taste. The twins started playing around Maya and rejoicing at how wonderful it was here. The girl realized that these were unusual children and they could like this. She looked at Rak and said that it was great that the children liked the place. The Duke looked back at the girl kindly and admitted that it was all thanks to her. Having decided on a place, Maya suggested settling down here, and at that moment, a large centipede crawled up to her feet. Seeing the insect, the girl did not lose her head and reacted quickly. Maya exclaimed and rushed to attack it. After fighting the insect, the girl looked around and discovered that her basket had disappeared somewhere. Maya was absolutely sure that it had just been in her hands. Looking at the Duke, she found her basket on his head. A red liquid resembling blood was flowing out of the basket onto Rock's face, but it was only strawberry juice. The girl felt awkward about what had happened. She asked the Duke for forgiveness and explained her actions by saying that she had simply been suddenly frightened. Maya approached the man to help him get rid of the basket and wipe his face. She tried to find the handkerchief she had taken with her. The dirty handkerchief fell out of the basket, making the girl laugh. The nanny offered to use her clothes so that the Duke could dry himself. She took off her shawl and offered it to Rocky. The man politely declined and told her not to get dirty. Feeling guilty about what had happened, Maya began to persuade the Duke to give her a chance to correct her mistake. The girl asked to wipe Rock's face and clothes, and she wanted to wash the shawl later. Having resigned himself to the fact that he would have to accept help from the girl, the Duke allowed her to wipe him. Maya took a handkerchief in her hand and began to wipe the man's face. The Duke hurried the girl, but she continued to wipe it carefully. The girl said that in any case, it would remain sticky even though they had wiped everything. There was still a trace of strawberry juice on the man's face, and Maya was trying to wipe it off, while Raka had the basket on his head the whole time. The girl suggested that the Duke stay here while she went to look around. Maya thought that perhaps there was a lake nearby somewhere. Raka refused the nanny's offer and declared that he would go and find the lake himself. He then turned and walked in the other direction, and Maya began to shout after him to take the basket off his head. Aisha crept up to Maya and began to slyly offer to show her something. She emphasized that he would be surprised if the girl showed her this. The girl moved away, and a living flower appeared before the girl's eyes. With eyes and mouths, it looked very creepy. Maya screamed, frightened by this monster unknown to her. Aisha asked the priestess if she liked it. She picked a flower and, handing it to the girl, said enthusiastically that it even moved. Maya was even more scared. She screamed again and reflexively hit the flower with her hand with all her strength. The creature's pieces flew to the ground. Aisha looked upset. The girl was afraid that the child was about to cry. She asked if the girl wanted to go with her and pick another plant. Aisha lowered her eyes, answered negatively. She said that the flower was still alive. A small, long mouth came out of the plant's head. It crawled along the ground and then squealed very loudly. Maya screamed, ordering the creature to be quiet. She asked if Aisha was okay. Suddenly, she saw the girl start to emit an aura of black magic. Aisha replied that she was right. It was not a flower at all. Maya was surprised that she realized this only now. The girl heard some unknown noise behind her. She turned to look. Delcane yelled at the girls to run away. Maya saw him hurrying towards them and waved at him. As he ran past his daughter-in-law, he grabbed her hand, emphasizing that he had told them to run. He was very scared. Pulling his daughter-in-law by the hand, he exclaimed, "If she does not want to die, then she had better run as fast as she can." The nanny asked the boy to wait and explain what was happening. Assuming there was something behind them, Maya turned around without stopping to look. A huge monster, similar to the flower she had tried to kill, was crawling behind them. The girl asked what it was. Delcane replied that there was no point in asking questions now, urging his daughter-in-law to simply run. Meanwhile, Raka was reminiscing about how he thought it was cute when Maya wiped his face with a handkerchief. He was very embarrassed by what happened and irritated by his reaction to it. His heart was beating like crazy. He didn't understand what was happening to him. Rubbing his cheek, he thought it was just a touch. Raka assumed that maybe his reaction was due to Maya's ability. He fell to his knees before the river and began to wash himself, mentally asking himself that Maya was only replacing the flower Shakir. Why then was he not himself? Raka thought he should hurry up because they were waiting for him. He shook his head, thinking he was starting to come to his senses. There was a bush with fruits nearby. The man assumed that sweet fruits must grow somewhere in this area. And Maya likes sweets, so he decided to collect some, and besides, the basket is now empty. The fruits looked like sweet, juicy peaches. Raka wondered if Maya would like this. He assumed that she would be happy if he plucked these fruits. Then Ruka froze. Suddenly it dawned on him what he was doing. He was puzzled, wondering why he was picking fruits for someone with whom he had business relations. The man was angry and crushed the fruits in his hands out of anger, thinking that he was still not himself. He heard a familiar sound and became wary. It was a lependez, a creature that spends most of its time in hibernation. Rak was curious about the reasons why it had suddenly woken up, and the only person who could touch this monster was Aisha. This infuriated the man, because the noise must have woken up the other lependez. Suddenly, Raka remembered Maya and began to call her. He was worried about her because he thought the twins would be able to take care of themselves. From behind the foliage, he heard the girl's screams, and a moment later, the brother and sister were already approaching him, together with the nanny, who was scared to tears. She was shouting at him to run. Raka saw the lependez behind them. Aisha was laughing merrily. The man angrily assumed that someone was in a good mood. He thought it was time to sort this out in return and began preparing to use black magic. Maya, running past him, asked what he was doing, grabbing his hand and dragging him along. She pointed out to the man that he needed to leave. Raka blushed deeply. Looking at the girl, he thought, what if he just kept running? And he smiled. Maya was surprised and asked if the Duke realized that the road they were now running on could lead them straight to death. Raka replied that they would not die so easily because of a flower. Maya exclaimed, what does the Duke propose to do then? But Raka was perfectly happy with everything. She was very surprised that he was happy with everything in such a situation. Because the girl ran so fast, she had almost no strength left. Raka asked if she was tired. Maya, barely able to speak, replied that she felt like she was going to die. It was too much for her. The Duke emphasized that he could not allow that. He handed the fruit basket to Maya and stopped abruptly. The girl stopped behind him, shielding the children with her body. She could not believe that Raka had let go of her hand. She began to wonder how this was possible, and if they could now hold hands without problems. Raka waved his hands, gathering black magic into a shock ball. And so, many tongues of black magic rushed into the monster, tearing it to shreds with one powerful blow. Silence fell, which was later broken by the delighted children. Aisha admired her brother's coolness. Delcane asked how his sister-in-law was feeling and if she was very scared. Maya smiled, saying that she was just a little surprised by the magic. Raka asked if the priestess was okay. The girl nodded, barely holding back tears. Aisha grumbled that she was scared because her brother used black magic. Raka corrected the girl, assuming that the nanny was afraid of the lependez. Aisha suggested that in that case, wouldn't it be better to find and dry lavender seeds? Delcane called the girl to look at another interesting flower. Maya was very nervous, which made her very tired. The children left and they were left alone. Raka offered the girl to eat the contents of the basket. Maya was surprised because the basket should be empty. Opening it, she finds fruits in it and wonders what it is. The Duke does not know their name. Maya hesitated. Raka suggested that she try it because it is a very rare fruit that grows only here. The girl shuddered. She didn't want to eat the fruit, whose name was unknown. Moreover, it grows in the place of origin of black magic. Maya asked if it really wasn't poisonous. Raka took the fruit from her hands and bit it. The priestess panicked. She was worried about the presence of poison in the unknown fruit. As soon as Maya tried to object, the man threw the fruit into her mouth. The girl happily remarked that it was quite tasty. Raka smiled, saying that, as he had guessed, she liked sweets. Maya asked how the Duke had figured that out. The man laughed, replying that he had heard Maya eat all the cookies. The girl sheepishly exclaimed that she hadn't wanted them to go to waste. That's why she had eaten them. Raka emphasized that it was not good to lie. He turned around sharply, shouting at the children not to touch the tree. The man asked the priestess to stay there while he went to get the children. Maya agreed. She thought how much she liked the taste of the nameless fruit. She had learned about her taste preferences from Raka, and for some reason, she felt strange about it. Once loaded into the carriage, the exhausted children fell asleep almost immediately. Raka started a conversation to dispel the awkward silence, asking if the priestess was having a hard time with the twins. Maya replied that it was a bit hard, but since they liked her, she was fine with it. Raka was happy about that. The girl giggled, asking if he was worried that she might get tired, give up, and leave. Raka's expression changed abruptly, asking the priestess about her departure again. She asked if it was not an option when things were hard. The Duke interrupted the girl and categorically objected to her. Maya was frightened by Rocky's stern look and sharp answer. He suggested keeping quiet as he felt seasick. The girl did not understand what had suddenly happened to him. She assumed that he was seasick because of black magic. Maya was very tired from such an active day and began to feel sleepy. She closed her eyes and thought about how comfortable she was and where this softness came from. Raka leaned towards the priestess and placed his palm under her head, and Maya fell asleep. The Duke looked at the girl, his heart beating wildly and his cheeks flushed brightly. They rode quietly to the estate. The next day, Maya was glued to the couch and couldn't get up because she was so tired. She was upset that they went on a picnic on her day off and she had to work the next day. Today, there would be a fencing lesson on the training ground, and the girl was upset that today of all days the lesson had to be outside. Rita came through the door. She asked about the reason for the oppressive atmosphere. Maya told her that she had absolutely no strength to get up. It seemed that she had overstrained her body too much yesterday. The maid tried to support the nanny and began to open the curtains in order to air the room, but there was a heavy rain outside which puzzled the maid. After all, it had been sunny all the time until that day. Maya, upset, emphasized that God himself was on her side. It reminded her of Teradus. He had said he would bring her a sacred relic, but she had never heard from him. She was worried what if he wasn't going to bring anything. Rita noted that despite the rain, the lesson would take place, since a fencing competition would begin in a couple of days. Maya asked again, and the maid added that it was a huge event that took place once every 2 years. The girl thought, if it was such a huge event, then why didn't she know anything about it? And is it possible that it was all because it was before Reina met Kinez? Although the first blessing of Maya was also a scene from Kinez's past. And after that, Maya was supposed to fall asleep forever in a year. Maya suddenly realized that this meant that the original story had not yet begun. The priestess was inspired, hoping that the story would begin in 4 months and counting the amount accumulated during this time. Rita asked if the nanny was okay. She thought it would be right to tell the Duke that Nanny should rest today. Maya happily replied that everything was fine. She might be late for class. Arriving at the parade ground with the children, Raka was already waiting for them. The children were surprised by his arrival, and Delcane asked if everything was all right. The Duke stood in the rain without an umbrella. Shaking his hair, he replied that he came to check how the preparations for the competition were going. He heard that the twins would be sparring today. Maya was interested in the fact that the children would spar. Aisha claimed that she would beat Delcane. The boy objected to his sister, and the children began to argue. Raka ordered them to stop and go get ready. Maya was worried about the children and asked how about using an umbrella until the fight started. Delcane replied contentedly that his daughter-in-law should not worry. They would not get sick. Aisha added that they were already wet anyway, so everything was fine. The children happily ran to get ready. The girl was still worried, and Raka said that he was more worried about her than about the twins. Maya was surprised, and the man put his hand on her forehead. He added that she had no fever. The nanny was very embarrassed. Her cheeks became very red, and she asked what he was doing. Raka replied that the maid had told him about the Mrs. Poor Health, and if she has any pain, she should tell her. No need to go through everything alone. Maya awkwardly replied that her muscles just hurt from running yesterday. Raka thought about it, saying that it was too bad that she was so weak. The girl wondered if he thought so because everyone in his lineage was so resilient. The children informed the Duke that Patrash was ready for sparring. Maya wondered who Patrash was. She remembered a cute dog named Patrash and assumed that they were talking about her. And a large, strong man, Patrashe Pavlov, who was responsible for teaching fencing, came out onto the parade ground. Raka explained to Maya who it was, and she could barely contain her laughter, covering her mouth with her hand. He invited her to come to the parade ground and moved forward. Maya asked if the Duke used an umbrella. The man replied that he did not take one because he thought the rain would soon stop. Then the girl, smiling sweetly, suggested that they go together under her umbrella. A slight blush appeared on Rocky's cheeks, and he agreed. Zerdia Imperial Palace. A servant approaches His Majesty, asking if he has seen the list of participants in the fencing competition. The man dejectedly replies that he has not yet. He tiredly held his head, thinking that he had more important things to do. The Shakir flower was gone, and what was worse, the daughter of God was missing. The servant informed His Majesty that he had recently received information about a woman who could put people to sleep. It was also said that Duke Ainthia had also learned of this. Therefore, it does not seem that this rumor is not true. The emperor thought, if even Duke Ainthia was looking for information about this, then it really is not just a rumor. He never does anything without a reason. Kanice asked if the woman was a saint by any chance. The man replied that further investigation would be needed for that. The emperor smiled, saying, whatever, this was good news. Now he could worry about other things. And he began to study the list of participants. Kanice laughed, saying that it seemed that these hooligan children of the Ainthia family had already reached the age to participate in the fencing tournament. The servant confirmed. This would be the first time they would appear in public. Kynes asked if they were thinking about winning and getting a new title, since they couldn't remain under the Duke's rule forever. He thought it was quite possible. The man pointed his finger at the list with interest and asked who it was. The servant replied, Cray Monteris, the eldest son of Count Monteris. He is also a candidate for the first place, but people call him crazy. The emperor thought about it, asking how about pitting Monteris against young Master Ainthia in the first round. The servant asked again. Kynes continued, hearing the testimony of the knights who were in the hut. It made him think that it was Duke Ainthia with the twins. The man reminded him that the readings were not very accurate. The emperor objected, saying that they still had to be prepared. As far as they knew, only young Master Ainthia could not use black magic. Kanice would like young Master Ainthia to remain forever in the shadow of his family. Maya stood with the Duke under the triumphal arch. The children were preparing for sparring. Patracia shouted the start of the fight. Aisha swung her sword with a scream. Maya guessed that she was quite strong, which meant that Delcane might lose. But the boy fought off her attacks quite quickly and confidently. The nanny immediately mentally took her words back. She asked the Duke who, in his opinion, would win. The man thought seriously, saying that if we consider the long term, then Aisha should win. Maya asked what about the short fight. Raka replied that he did not know. They were both terrible. They are wasting their time. A verbal altercation ensues between the children. Aisha tells her brother not to dare to even try to deceive her. Delcane is indignant, calling on his sister to concentrate. The children were glowing with confidence. Aisha thought this was her chance to show off her good side to the Unease. And Delcane was very worried that his daughter-in-law was watching. The boy attacked his sister, but she held back the blow, emphasizing that if he attacked with such force, he would fall. Aisha was sure that victory would be hers. Delcane deftly kicks the girl in the leg, and she, not expecting it, falls to the ground. The brother puts his sword to the sister's neck, and Patrash declares Delcane the winner. Aisha began to justify herself by saying that she lost because of the rain, but she would definitely win the fencing tournament. Delcane asked what she would do because her daughter-in-law would not know whether she would win or not. The daughter-in-law won't be going to the tournament. Aisha's eyes widened in surprise. She asked the Unni if that was true. Maya confirmed, saying that she wouldn't be able to go. The girl cried out piteously, turning to her elder brother. Couldn't she go with them? Since it was her wish. Raka replied in the negative, but Aisha did not give up. She asked the reason for the refusal. The brother answered that it was not part of their plans. The sister continued to argue. Maya thought that the fencing tournament was a very large-scale event. Therefore, Emperor Kynes cannot help but go to the tournament. If she is seen in such a crowded place, she will be immediately seized. Aisha asked if Unni wanted to go to the fencing tournament. Maya gently replied that she really wanted to, but she couldn't. She would support them from here. Aisha exclaimed that she hated Unni. Maya walked down the hallway of their house, thinking about the girl's reaction. It seemed to her that Aisha was very upset. She said that the tournament would be in 2 days, so tomorrow they will also train. Maya suddenly had a good idea to make juice to support the girl. Maya made juice in the kitchen, and the cook tasted it and began to admire its incredible taste. He asked if this was what the nanny had made for their picnic. It tasted just perfect to him. The girl excitedly asked if Aisha would like this juice, since she was unable to give it to her to try at the picnic due to some circumstances. The chef responded with admiration that of course she would like it, because the carrots were barely noticeable in the juice. It had more of an apple flavor, so she should like it. The man found the juice to be truly incredible in taste. Maya happily thanked him for such warm words. Raka stood at the door, wondering what was going on. He thought the maid had advised him to look into the kitchen, and he was curious as he had never seen her so agitated. The servants were very surprised by the Duke's presence in the kitchen. Maya asked what he was doing there. She added that she was preparing vegetable juice for Aisha for breakfast, and the man asked why she was doing this. The girl hesitated, awkwardly answering that she simply wanted to do it, emphasizing that the people present here had done nothing wrong. Raku was surprised by the nanny's behavior, why she was trying so hard for everything. He wondered if she really cared about Aisha. After all, no one usually wants to deal with twins. The Duke said she didn't have to take such great care of the girl. She was simply obliged to do the work that a nanny should do. Maya sheepishly replied that it was all true, but Aisha had looked depressed all day. She was doing it just for herself, outside of her work. Raka asked again, and Maya confirmed her words. There was an awkward pause, and the girl rushed around the kitchen, not understanding anything, but thinking that it was better to get out of here before he himself threw her out of the kitchen. Maya lost a bottle of juice, and the cook handed it to the girl, saying that there was little space on her table, so he moved it. Maya happily thanked him for this. The girl wanted to thank the man and offered him the rest of the juice. The cook was very grateful to Maya. Raka grabbed the bottle of juice meant for the cook and drank it, saying that he was not so bad. Everyone present looked at the Duke in surprise. Raka remarked that everyone was free since they were doing nothing. Maya thought that he was in a bad mood today. Suggesting that Rocky might feel better if he ate something sweet, Maya offered him more juice, pointing out that it was sweet because it had honey. Thanks to him, perhaps the Duke's spirits will rise. Raka looked dejectedly at the bottle, realizing the absurdity of what he had done. He angrily put the bottle on the table, ordering it to be removed, and walked away. Maya assumed that the Duke did not like the juice. The servants noted with embarrassment who their Duke was, who had never been interested in women, the day of the fencing competition. Maya sat dejectedly in the stands. Dressed in a black cloak, she had to go because of the wish made by Delcane. The girl thought that he would use his privilege later, as expected from the Ainthia family. Maya remembered how she begged him to make another wish. After all, she had good reasons not to agree. To which the boy replied that it was she who said that promises must be kept. He was disappointed. Aisha played along with her brother as best she could. Maya couldn't say anything, but she was terrified that if she was caught, she would go to the temple and then she would die. Next to her, in the same long black cloak, sat Raka, with his arms folded across his chest. And he seriously told Maya not to promise again that she would fulfill the twins' wishes. The girl agreed. She suddenly noticed that there were more blondes with blue eyes than she thought. It seemed to her that everything was not so bad. Maya said that in that case she would not be caught. And as soon as she touched the hood, Raka pulled it over her face, telling her not to even think about removing the cloak. The girl whined that she hadn't tried to take it off. The Duke answered sarcastically, apparently it seemed to him. And Maya hesitated, since she had nothing to answer, and she grumbled, asking if the Duke considered her a child, since she too did not want to be found and sent to the temple. There was an awkward silence between them. Maya thought she had said too much. Then Raka asked why she had run away from the temple. Maya thought about it. The novel tells us that after the second blessing, Maya's life began to fall apart. She knew that Raka could keep his mouth shut, but how could she tell him about it? Just as she was about to reply, the arrival of His Majesty the Emperor was announced. People rushed closer to the field. Everyone wanted to see the Emperor. A crowd began. Maya, standing on her toes, tried to see what was happening. The men next to her were arguing for a place, since they had both never seen the Emperor. And the girl was worried about getting caught in the heat of the moment. Raka offered her to take his hand. Maya became very nervous, saying that everything was fine. And suddenly she was pushed, and the girl, almost falling, grabbed the Duke's hand. She trembled and thanked the man for his help. Raka said in a frightening tone that he thought they wanted to die, so they had lost their minds. And Maya abruptly let him go, admiringly telling Raka to look at what a beautiful view they had. She thought that the daughter of God still needs to control the reckless killings today. Seeing the Emperor, Maya thought, this is the strength of the protagonist. She said in fascination how beautiful he was. His beauty could be felt from a distance. Raka looked at the girl in surprise, asking if she was the one who was avoiding his majesty. Maya replied that it was true, but why was he so interested in it? Raka turned away, telling her not to pay attention to it. Aisha and Delcane were waiting for the tournament to begin. The boy examined his sword, asking for his sister's sword for comparison. After examining both swords, he realized that the hilt of his sword was very loose. Delcane said his sword was broken. Aisha insisted he go and change it right away. So her brother did. He thought it was strange because the event was quite serious. The man involved in the organizational activities told the young master that they would not be able to replace his sword because they had no spare ones, and asked him to forgive them. Now the boy was absolutely sure that something was wrong. The emperor was informed of what had happened, and he admired the cleverness of the young master. The servant said that despite the sword being broken, he did not give up on the competition. The boy had aroused Kinese's interest. However, no matter how good his skills were, whether he could defeat the son of Count Monteris was still in question. This reminded the emperor of the first time he saw the twins. At that time, the previous duke and duchess had gone missing. So the emperor went to their mansion to assess the situation. When he saw the twins, he noticed their eyes staring at him. Two pairs of violet eyes glowed in a frightening way that was not typical for children. Therefore, he believed that these children could not grow up weak. Kinese assumed that Monteris was very talented. He looked around and asked the servant where Duke Anthea was. The man replied that Duke Anthea's carriage was not there. Kinese found this strange, as he thought that the duke who cared so much about the twins could not have failed to come today. The emperor wondered where he could be. He noticed Miss Anthea waving to someone, and Kynes looked up at the stands, finding the duke waving back. It was clear from the duke's appearance that he had deliberately wanted to hide. The emperor noticed the duke smiling at someone near him, but he could not understand who could have gone with him to such a place. Kynes ordered Viego to find out who was sitting next to Duke Anthea. Meanwhile, Maya admired Aisha's quick victory. Raka pointed out that the enemy was weak. That was why it was so easy. Maya countered, saying that the duke should be sure to praise the girl when she returned. The man asked with disgust. Maya exclaimed that it absolutely had to be done. She was beginning to understand why Aisha was so eager for praise. The duke stubbornly stood his ground. He did not understand why it was necessary to praise the girl, despite the fact that she had won the duel. The girl smiled pleasantly and told Rocky that Aisha simply needed to be praised. At that moment, she seemed especially sweet and attractive to him. Raka was so fascinated by Maya that he even stopped arguing with her. The girl thought that he had become silent because he did not understand her. The gates to the arena opened and Delcane stepped out. He was equipped specifically for the tournament and had steel bracers and leg guards. The boy went up to the arena where he was to compete with another similar participant, and they were told about the start of the competition. The fight began and Delcane was ready to win. He was confronted by a boy in steel armor who attacked relentlessly. Maya and Raka watched the competition from the stands, the girl waving and shouting words of encouragement to Delcane. It seemed to her that the boy was upset about something. Maya noticed that the sword that Delcane was fighting with began to wobble, and she could not understand why this happened. Delcane's opponent struck again. The boy managed to react and blocked it with his sword, but the blade could not withstand it and slipped out of the handle. No one expected this to happen. Delcane was scared that his sword broke, and at that moment he was wounded. Maya was very scared for the boy's condition. Raka reassured the girl that Delcane's wound was not serious. She did not understand how one could be calm after seeing such a thing. The girl came to her senses a little and looked at the duke. It was obvious that the man was worried about the boy much more than she was. Maya decides to support Rock and takes his hand. She says that Delcane will be able to stop the fight himself if things go badly. Raka glanced at the girl. Maya tried to cheer the man up with his own words. The girl reminds him that Delcane wasn't too badly hurt. Maya's words of support did not help calm the man down. The Duke was very indignant about what happened in the arena and called someone an impudent person. Raka suddenly turned around and went somewhere. He promised the girl that he would return soon. Maya excitedly tried to find out from him what had happened, but heard nothing in response. The girl wanted to know where the Duke had suddenly gone. She was left alone and worried about what to do next with the duel and thought that perhaps she should have stopped it. Delcane's arm was wounded, but he was not going to stop the fight. The boy thought about taking the chance to steal the weapon, but his opponent was still strong. Delcane's opponent arrogantly offered the boy to surrender if he did not want a similar injury to happen to his other hand. The boy thought he had managed to weaken his opponent's vigilance. The opponent saw that Delcane was not going to give up and rushed to attack him. Delcane was ready to repel the attack. He concentrated as much as possible to find his opponent's weak spot. Suddenly, the boy heard someone shout and call his opponent crazy for attacking an unarmed man. Delcane turned around and saw Aisha running into the arena. The girl became furious and began to create a ball of black magic aura. Aisha threatened that she would not leave it unpunished and was going to attack Delcane's opponent. The boy in armor prepared to repel Aisha's attack. She rushed at him with all her might and was ready to use black magic. An explosion of incredible power occurred in the arena. Clouds of smoke and dust enveloped everything so strongly that the participants of the duel were not visible. The blast did not touch Delcane, and he was still standing. The boy covered his face with his hand and began to blame Aisha for her crazy act. A silhouette of a man appeared behind Delcane. He could see him through the dust and smoke. It was his brother, whose appearance had surprised the boy. Raka asked about the condition of the boy's hand. Delcane replied that it was fine, as the cut was not deep at all. Raka praised his younger brother and patted him on the head. The Duke suggested that the boy go to the carriage and rest, while he intended to fix everything here. Delcane asked about what to do with the tournament now. Raka suggested that because Aisha had rushed into the fight, it could be considered a disqualification, and the tournament was over. There was panic in the stands, and people were running in different directions. Maya was worried about what was happening because Raka told her to stay where she was, and he himself went somewhere. The girl decided that it was necessary to stay where they were, since they might not find each other later, and this could become a big problem. Among the people in the stands, Maya notices an unfamiliar man who, it seemed to her, was looking in the direction of the girl, and then began to approach her. Maya was scared and now began to understand where she got the bad feeling from. The girl decided that she needed to return to the carriage and wait there for Raku and the twins. She tried to walk away from the strange man, but he caught up with her and took her hand. Then he asked her to give him some time. The girl pulled her hand away and politely told the man that she was in a hurry and tried to end the conversation. Maya needed to leave urgently, but she didn't know how to do it. The man tried to ask the girl her name, but she replied that he should introduce himself first. He thought for a moment and began to introduce himself. Without waiting for the man's answer, Maya ran away in horror. There was no way she could allow herself to be caught and have all of the girl's plans ruined. Maya quickly headed towards the carriage. She ran through the exit, which was crowded with people, so Maya hoped to get lost in the crowd and escape from her pursuer. Among the people, the girl heard passers-by excitedly discussing the boy who was bleeding. The nanny was very afraid for Delcane's well-being and decided to check it out. The girl headed in the direction from which she had heard this conversation and found Delcane standing alone, pressing his hand to the wound. Maya told the boy not to move. Maya grabbed Delcane in her arms and hurried to the carriage. The boy explained to the girl that he was perfectly fine and that she should let him go. The girl told Delcane that she was being followed by a strange man and asked him to follow him. The boy was able to look back and saw someone moving behind them on the right side. After running through several alleys, Maya and Delcane managed to reach the carriage. The girl thought that here they would not be pursued, and then discovered that the boy was bleeding heavily. Delcane reassured Maya that the wound was not deep. The nanny offered to help stop the bleeding, but she knew she couldn't get out of the carriage now and buy anything for that. Suddenly, Raka opened the carriage door and did not immediately notice Maya and Delcane. The Duke suggested that Aisha wait for him inside, and he himself wanted to go find the priestess. Maya was very happy when she saw Raku. Now she could feel safe, and the boy's wound could be treated safely. Raka did not expect to see the girl in the carriage and was very surprised. He thought that the girl was still waiting for him in the stands. Aisha was happy to see the Uni and sat down next to her. The girl bragged about her victory in the competition, and Maya praised her for it. Aisha asked about her brother's well-being, but he was indignant that she was making too much noise and they began to quarrel. The emperor was delighted by what had happened. Before that day, he would never have thought that Duke Ainthia would be so worried about his twins and would come out to the stadium. Viego asked Emperor Kynes for forgiveness for failing to complete his task. The man admitted that he had lost her halfway and did not understand how she had managed to escape. The emperor doubted that the girl could be a saint. He had heard that the daughter of God was weak. During the pursuit, Viego managed to notice one strange feature about the girl. Her eyes were blue. That evening, at the Duke's house, Maya sat on the bed and asked Raka about Delcane's condition. The man explained that after taking medication, the boy would be fine. Raka learned from Delcane that Maya had been pursued by a knight during the day and wanted to find out more details from the girl. Maya thought about it and said that the man who was following her wanted to ask the girl about who she was. Raka asked her to remember what the man looked like. The girl tried to remember the knight's appearance. She described a man dressed in armor who had a large scar on his face near his mouth. The Duke suggested that he knew who could have had such a cut scar. Raka told Maya that she had been stalked by the emperor's assistant. Maya was very worried when she learned that the emperor wanted to personally check her identity. Raka reassured the girl and promised to take care of it. The girl thought about how no one had yet found out who she really was. Maya had a contract with the Duke, and she hoped that he would help her not get back to the temple. The next morning, Maya woke up in her bed. The girl stretched and noted that she had managed to sleep well that day. Maya found an empty chair next to her bed and noticed that the Duke always woke up before her in the morning. The girl went out onto the balcony to breathe fresh air and enjoy the sun's rays. Maya thought she needed to be more hardworking. From the balcony, Maya saw something in the yard that made her very nervous. The girl warned the maid that she would go outside for a short while. Delcane sat on his knees in the grass near the spot where he buried Puri, missing his pet. Maya came up to the boy from behind and asked him what he was doing there. He didn't expect to see her and was very surprised when Maya came. The boy wondered how his daughter-in-law knew about this place. The girl pointed to the balcony and explained that her room was there. Maya repeated her question to Delcane. The boy touched a spot where no grass grew and replied that he was just playing in the dirt. The nanny suggested that something was buried in this place. Delcane was surprised by this and asked her how she knew, and Maya said that she had accidentally seen him digging something here earlier. The boy confessed that he had buried his and Aisha's beloved pet Puri there. Delcane said he had given the animal what it liked, but it didn't seem to care. Maya asked Delcane to list the things that made her pet happy. The boy said that Puri liked moss-covered stones and bones, as well as poisonous mushrooms. The girl thought that the pet could have died because of this. Delcane shared that Puri was always hanging around in circles in such a funny way, so he and Aisha would give him what he wanted. He said that unlike how Maya managed to help her brother, Raka was unable to save their pet using black magic. The boy hung his head and said that the girl had been able to bring his older brother back to life as he was, but with Puri it was different. He blamed himself for holding on to him until the end. Delcane asked to keep the fact that he buried Puri a secret. He explained that Aisha said she liked the current Puri better because he was not as loud. The boy smiled sheepishly and told the girl that he had decided to bury it in the backyard of the outbuilding on purpose. But Maya noticed. The girl was amazed at how much the boy loved Puri, that he visited him constantly. Delcane stood up and was about to leave this place. Looking at the boy, Maya could tell that he looked like he was okay. He never cried, but she felt that inside his soul everything was different. Maya walked up to the boy and hugged him. She told Delcane that although it was hard for him to let go of his pet, thanks to this, Puri would be in a good place.